That's what I'm talking about. It was a little extra surprise for you, Chad. A little extra surprise for you today. Welcome, everybody, to episode 122 of Pen and Pixels. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. This is the show that we do every Tuesday from 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until, well, actually, Eastern Daylight Savings Time until 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And we are playing some Dungeons & Dragons with GOG Stormcake's Thunder with the super hype video that was provided to you by the power of Screaming Joypad. That was Screaming Joypad who did that amazing, awesome video. Super excited that we can actually have an intro video. It's really cool. I love it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Before I actually introduce the wonderful people to you, let me remind you all about ways that you can support GOG. Please follow the channel if you haven't done so already. That is always a good thing to do. Please, if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to GOG as well, because we've got a lot of awesome emotes and a lot of awesome streamers here, and the subscribing to us actually helps support all of the stream team, and you're going to see many members of that stream team tonight. So please, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing it and supporting the power of DRM free. And please make sure to follow us all on our individual channels. We've got subsystems and all that kind of stuff as well. So please make sure to check out all of that stuff too, because that is all wonderful. Now, with that said, I'm going to unmute myself so that they can now hear that we are just about ready to go. And then I'm going to unmute them, and then I'm going to move over to the power of the stream team, which compels you. There they all are. And you can see that they are there. Yeah, the waves. Oh my God, the waves are so funny. When Mike was putting this together, he was like, okay, so just make sure you send us this thing with us waving. So everybody did that. And I was like, I'm of course the dork, because I'm like, I'm going to do a Matt Mercer thing. Check out my book in front of my face. See, I'm all dramatic and stuff. So here you guys are like, hey, I'm really happy. And I'm like, I am ridiculously pretentious. Observe my... It was pretty funny. But anyway, it was an awesome video. Mike, I couldn't be happier with it. So thank you. And yeah, now we're all getting official and stuff, people. And I'm going to start, as I always do, by moving down the column. And I will start, first of all, with Pyron Jade. Hello, Pyron, who's the first person you saw waving in that video. Hi, Pyron. How are you? And how's life? And who are you playing?
Life is busy. I'm happy. And I'm playing Greta Goldenfire, Dwarven Cleric of Folters. May his line shine on his way. Who is, has a pony and is quite happy about that. We're nearly back to civilization, which is also good. And we just met the most ridiculous and inept secret society of all times. And I just still can't believe that.
More or less, yes. This is true. This is true. And you met. Well, we'll talk about your boy Diego Maradona. We'll talk about him.
Yeah. He is not my boy. He is so not my boy.
So not my boy.
Good characters are allowed to murder, right?
Yeah, sure. In a big city, why not? Yeah. Happens every day. It's lovely to see you as always, Pyron. Moving right on down the list, we have, of course, Darksaber 2K, who claimed that he had the most awkward wave of all time within the course of that. How long do I wave? But it was it's awesome.
Like a 7-minute video. I don't know what to do. You're just like
yeah, it just keeps
7 minutes. I'm surprised you get cramp.
Yeah, you could fade out the wave at any time you want. Just fade it out. Like eventually it just fades from the
Say cut, Mike.
Cut. Oh,
Mike told us to send him a 5-second video of us waving, and you can't really imagine, like, if you're sitting there in front of your computer, like doing this for 5 seconds. It is so difficult, and you just start doing other stuff, and then you send a 20-second video to Mike, and he uses the part where you're doing other stuff. Of course.
That was the plan.
Yep, it was good times. But good to see you, Saber, as always. Saber, how's life for you, and who are you playing, sir?
I've been trying to keep myself busy with the streamings, and I'll be stepping back into the shoes of Celsig Mauer, financial redistribution consultant.
And sometime Ranger.
Sometime part-time Ranger,
on occasion. Yes, I am looking forward to seeing what we get from Mr. Celsig Mauer. Moving right on down the line, we have the brains and brawn behind that new intro video that you all just saw, and that, of course, is Mike is Screaming Joypad. Mike, how are you? How's life? And who are you playing, sir?
Yes, life is good. Life feels good. It was good to actually get a video out and do some editing, even though it was super rushed. I openly admit that, but everyone appreciates it. But there is more to come. I'm playing. Who am I playing? I'm playing Urash of the Northern Realm, who is a half-orc barbarian and devout follower of Tempest. I'm so excited to be playing D&D again. Yes. And my internet's working. My internet
is working. Yay!
I'm pretty certain Virgin Media killed my other character on your other show.
Yeah, well, that, oh man, like you guys should definitely make sure you are checking out Infinity and Beyond, the flagship campaign on my other channel as well, because TikTok, which is Mike's other character that he plays on that campaign, is going through some stuff. So there's a lot happening there. And I
if we
should.
weren't such good friends, I think you had something against me. I really was.
It's right. It's because it just happens to be the circumstances. This is what happens. It's also what happens when you put John in charge of your character. Like he's just kind of like, sure, he's a robot. What could go wrong? I'm not a robot. Anyway, but I am looking forward to seeing how these things happen. And yes, this campaign takes place after Rise of TM, and I'm looking forward to having a chance to talk to you all about something relating to ArvCon. But I'll talk about that in a minute, which will connect to IAB. But in any case, very much looking forward to seeing the power of Urash returning to all of us here as they enter the great city of Neverwinter. And last but certainly not least, of course, the newest member, but no less beloved for being the newest member, and that, of course, is Tasty Chai. How are you, Chai, and who are you playing today?
Hi, I'm doing well, just, hanging out, doing life stuff. I am playing, I'm playing River, who is a Silver Dragonborn, who loves food and happens to be the latest addition to the most dysfunctional secret society known to man. and yeah, all she can think about right now is the fact that she got a purple ribbon that allows access to the food.
Yes.
And that's all she's focused on right now.
She's got that's true. They've got a pin which basically gives them access to this festival. So it's a big deal. Although they do have another issue to work on first, which is the little matter of thinking that Urash is a king killer. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So I do want to mention very quickly the ArvCon thing. So I will talk to these folks about this off air, although I've mentioned it to them already. But as some of you may know, I run a charity convention on my channel every year, which is called ArvCon, which is designed to raise money for the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. Folks know that this is personal to me. I lost my mother to breast cancer and lost several dogs to cancer and have had it affect people around my family quite considerably. And unfortunately, that is a story replicated far too often. And so this is an opportunity for people to come together to do something about it. We have raised almost $4,000 over the last few years of doing this. This year, I want to raise $3,000 or bust for the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. And so it will be the last weekend of May. That is Memorial Day weekend in the States. And what I'm hoping for is that all of my players in my various campaigns, and I run 4 separate campaigns, all of my players in my campaigns will be able to be on that weekend. So it'll be slightly out of order for these folks in particular because they're normally here on Tuesday. I'm going to try to keep it during the day to make it useful for the European folks, which is all of us except Chai and myself. But I really would like to be able to do that to showcase my amazing players and hopefully to get a lot of people getting and contributing and stepping up to try to stop this dread disease. We have made some incredible progress towards it, but in a world that has a whole bunch of bad things that happen, I think community and compassion are the things that actually get us over the hump with most of those things, and this is an example of that. And so what better to do but to mix some of my favorite people with my favorite game and an important charity, and so that's what ArvCon's all about. So you will see these folks again next month, but hopefully during ArvCon, again, assuming that everybody can do it. But you will also see my other players as well. So it's just something to keep in mind over there going forward. I am looking forward to it. That said, let us talk a little bit about what has happened so far. These folks have been engaged in trying to discover what has caused the giants on the Sword Coast to become riled up. There have been attacks. There have been giants acting strangely, sometimes sitting in towers and singing about their lost husband very badly. There have just been lots of weird things going on with giants. And so over time, the party has begun to start unearthing some possible reasons as to why. And one of the leads that the party had when they were back up at Bryn Shander was this ring called the Ring of Winter, which was owned by a man named Artis Cimber. Artis Cimber, according to his son, had been making his way basically to Waterdeep for this great ball. That was the last lead that they had on him. And so the party decided that they were going to try to find him because that was lead they had, see if the Ring of Winter might be somehow involved with the reason that the giants are acting strangely. But on their way down to Bryn Shander, through a bunch of adventures that I won't get into because you can see all the VODs for that, the party had a chance to encounter a character known as the Weevil, a deadly criminal who they were able to capture due to incredibly well executed plans that did not at all involve fingers being cut off or being thrown from horses onto other horses, or any kind of attacks going on one side while a bunch of bugbears take someone away from another side. I mean, it all went exactly according to plan. Basically the best Mission Impossible that you could possibly get. And when they managed to capture the Weevil, they had a little bit of an issue because the question was, what were they going to do with him? The recommendation initially was that they should just bring him up to this one city, down to Waterdeep. And as they headed down to Waterdeep, that was their plan. However, they encountered a dragon on the way down, a friendly dragon known as Kalismana, who basically told them that there was a nearby tower and there were some strange goings on there, and that the dragon would be willing to help them if they were willing to find out what had happened in this tower. Upon going to this tower, they discovered the aforementioned wailing about the lost husband hill giant. They managed to drive her away, and in the process, they discovered, actually I should say right before they got to the tower, the three Greta, Selsig, and Urash found River, this silver dragonborn, who had been hired by what has been now described twice by the players as the most dysfunctional secret society of all time. It's just a very big secret society, right? Like, it's the problem. It's like what happens when you're in, like, at Yale University, they have this secret group called the Skull and Bones. And the problem is at a certain point when everyone is in Skull and Bones, then it's not secret because everyone's in it. Then the secret society are the people that are not in Skull and Bones. Like, that's the secret. So that's kind of the problem, is that it seems like lots of people are in the Harpers. It's a big organization. Also, the fact that River doesn't really pay attention to the secret part so much. So River was kind of like, yeah, I joined this group called the Harpers. It's awesome. And they give me food. So it's not quite, But anyway, the Harpers see great potential in River, and they see, in fact, great potential in the party. And so Kalismana, who is one of the Harpers, basically recruited the players to be able to work for them in the process of finding out what is going on with these giants. They also found in this tower a set of teleportation circles that teleports them all around the Sword Coast, and actually asked them to see if they could find other teleportation circles, because that would be really helpful for the Harpers while they're traveling around. But in the meantime, they still had to figure out what to do with the Weevil, and so they used one of their teleportation circles to teleport to the great city of Neverwinter, which is one of the places that had asked for the Weevil to basically be delivered to them. They found their way through there. It was this kind of obscure attic type of place that had this woman who was very confused as to why some random people were showing up out of this place, but they managed to explain themselves to her, and then traveled through the city to basically give the Weevil over to the head of the local authorities there, a man named Lord Arder. When they got there, on the way there, they encountered also a man with great tact, understanding, discipline, and that, of course, is Diego Maradona the Bard, who, when they actually discovered him, basically spent a bunch of time trying to sing songs and made up a story about how Urash had actually killed kings, and did so effectively that everyone in the square that saw it was like, whoa, he kills kings? Wow, that's amazing, blah, 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 blah. They managed to get by him, get to Lord Arder, give over the Weevil. They were given some rewards, and as they prepared to leave Lord Arder's place, they were confronted by two guards and a man between the guards who was pointing at Urash saying, "That's him, lords! It's the king killer right there!" And right behind him, the figure of Diego Maradona going, "Hello," just sort of waving right behind him. And so it is there that we now return to our party, standing looking at these two guards with this man glaring at them between them, Lord Arder standing from behind his desk, everyone sort of looking at each other, and with some music going, I leave it to you.
I don't know this man. I'm not the king killer. Don't know what he's talking about.
We've just been speaking to the captain of the guard. Don't you think he would have said something?
There you go.
And they look at him and says, well, he wouldn't have said it if it wasn't true. And the guards sort of look down and look back up. And Lord Arder says, what king are we talking about exactly?
What, so no one lies in the city? Wow.
And,
that's impressive.
They sort of look down and back up and says, what king are we talking about here? Lord Arder says from behind you. And the man in the middle says, well, I don't rightly know, Lord. But everyone was saying it outside. They said he was big and dangerous he was, and you can see for yourself, Lord. well, he's a half-orc. You know, half-orcs, they're kind of dangerous. And Lord Arter kind of looks at him with his brow furrowed, and then looks at you, Urash, as well. This is assuming, Urash, you look back at Lord Arter, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he kind of looks at you and he says, so what exactly is this all about?
Honestly, I haven't got a clue. Met this guy outside. He tried to block our way to get into yourself. We had a prisoner to deliver. He said something about a king killer. Granted, that made a path for us. So, you know, for that, I'm grateful. And I gave a little wave to Diego there. But honestly, don't know king killer. Haven't killed any kings that I'm aware of. So, yeah, don't really know.
And so there's a moment where he kind of looks back and forth, and the man looks confused. Between the two guards, looks confused. And then you hear, perhaps I may explain, if I may. Bring! And he, like, you hear this lute sound behind him, right? And you see Diego's like, it all began, your lordship, when I decided that I would sing to celebrate, if you will, the arrival of these clearly great heroes to the city. I know that you know something of my reputation. Lord Arter says, I've never heard of you. Who the hell are you? I am, of course, Diego Maradona. Like he plays. He says, I am considered to be one of the most impressive bards that exists here on the northern, western, eastern sword coast. Right? And what is important to remember, that perhaps you may not have heard of me. And Lord Arter looks at him and says, you've just changed your accent. Oh, yes, well, yeah, I'm working on it, Lord. You see, the truth is, do all these people need to be here? And he looks at the two guards and the other man, and Arter
we can just go. We're finished.
And Arter sort of raises an eyebrow, and Diego says, oh, wait, no, my dear friends, these will be my character witnesses. And the guards sort of look at Lord Arter and look down at you, and Arter says, kind of puts his face in his hands for just a minute, and then is like, please tell you two get out, and so I'll deal with you later. And he's not talking to you, he's talking to the three guys, the two guards plus the man, and they depart. And the door closes, and he says, all right, this probably means absolutely nothing, but if the four of you, now he's looking at you, would mind just staying around for just 1 minute more. Now, explain this about character witnesses. And Diego says, perhaps they could explain to you how it is that I have made things easier for them in clearing their passage. Certainly, dear lady, and he looks to you, Greta, certainly you would be the one who would understand, someone with your knowledge and understanding, and your ability to call forth the spirits of water. You are clearly a water elementalist, I can see. Everything about you speaks water. You are the enemy of all fire. Darkness is with you, and not light or fire, but simply water. And he starts playing this water in the water of time. And Archer's like, stop.
Who legitimately calls Darksaber, who legitimately calls Celsius a ranger, and means it.
You know what? After all the sizes talk about big people being more dangerous and all of that, I'm out of here. I mean, there might be a reason that your career have not reached the ears of this wonderful King Arthur here. And, you know, we have other things to do. You do your thing, but do it somewhere where we are not. Okay?
He says, what?
Could we say he was plotting against the local lord and just walk off?
You know, Lord Arthur, Lord Arthur, you have dungeons and stuff. You don't need us to deal with this guy. We can just leave.
He says, you're probably right. And Diego's like, wait, dear friends, perhaps...
Stop calling us that.
He said, dear friends, how could you abandon a man in my hour of need? Certainly, you, Silver Dragonborn, you would understand the ability of one such as myself to embellish slightly, but only for the good reasons. I can tell that you're the kind of... And his eyes light on your little pin, River, that you're wearing. And he says, yes, you can see this is a person who is of exceptionally rare power. It is very clearly a member of the secret society, the Order of the Lutes. Yes, the Order of the Lutes. I knew it all along. It is only the Order of the Lutes. So this is why, Lord, they are not admitting that they know me, for it would break their cover as being part of the Order of the Lutes. And Lord Arthur looks at all of you. Order of the Lutes? Yeah, order of the loot, certainly. That is what we're talking about. Is it not so? And he points, he sort of holds his hand up to you longingly, River, like, is this not so?
I have never looted anything in my life.
I was going to say, people do call you a looter sometimes.
River?
But, River.
River, there is food. There's food outside. Let's leave.
Oh, okay, I'll go get the food.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, but certainly you,
I don't know
dear
what a loot
ranger.
is.
And he
I'm
says
sorry.
to Selsig, you are a one with the forest. Perhaps you will understand the power of nature. I too adore nature and all of its greenness and grass and trees and please. And then he finally, his voice tries to whisper, please help me. I can show you. I know what you're looking for. I can show you the ring of winter. He says, and then looks over his shoulder. Please, my friends.
I'm
I
still
look
trying to
at
sidle
you.
towards the
That-
door.
So the ones who would have heard that would have been Selsig, and then Greta was with River, I assume. So probably
Yep.
not them, but Urash, you and Selsig would have heard that.
Okay.
We didn't mention that, did we?
No,
No, we didn't.
no.
We definitely didn't mention that.
What do we do now? I was halfway out the door.
Lord Arder says, well, I'm sorry you've had to deal with this buffoon anymore. We'll see the time. Guards! And he calls for them, and the guards walk through.
Actually, it's fine. We'll see him out. I mean, he's an over-energetic bard.
I look at Urash as if he lost his mind.
God, I make absolutely no comment or gesture to Greta. If she wants to think I've lost my marbles, that's fine. She normally does. Yeah, it's fine. He's an over-energetic bard. We'll see him out on our way out. We'll part ways with him outside. You don't need to fill one of your cells for this. This isn't really a bother, is it?
Like you've never encountered a troublesome bard before. They're annoying. I think that's the first year of bard college is annoyance.
As an experienced bard myself.
Yes, exactly. When I double majored as bard and ranger.
I'm a barbarian.
Yeah, barbarian. So he, Lord Arder looks very confused, and he's like, I thought
Me
you
too.
didn't- you do know him then? A little?
Well,
or?
no, we don't know him, but we feel like we're imposing upon you. He's not really causing a fuss. We kind of feel like we're taking up more of your time than is absolutely necessary. And to be honest with you, you got a big festival out there. You're gonna have some
Pickpockets. You gotta watch out for them.
Exactly.
Diego
You
is
know,
nodding furiously. Oh, big festival. Yes, big, large
There you go.
festival.
You're gonna have some people that need to actually stay in your dungeons rather than this guy who's just, quite frankly, being a little bit of a local pest.
Yes, just a little. Yes, right.
And
Pest,
as
yes.
I'm doing this, I am slowly stepping backwards towards the door. I am
Okay.
assuming Mr. Maradona is either following me or no.
Oh yeah, he's like more or less like crawling on hands and knees, like as you're like walking backwards. And so Lord Arder says, the guards kind of look down and then look back up at Lord Arder, and Lord Arder says, "All right then, I suppose if you'll be answerable for him, just try to make sure he doesn't cause trouble. Enjoy the festival and good luck
Will do.
to you."
Will do.
Um,
Right. Everybody outside.
All right, so now you all exit, and when you get to the guards sort of, watch you out and kind of look at you suspiciously. Not you, look at mostly him suspiciously as he leaves. And Diego says, "Oh, thank you, my friends. Thank you. I cannot
No
thank
word.
you enough."
Not a word. Not a word. Not a word, Diego. Right. Everybody, nearest alleyway. Selsig, point away.
Okay.
Okay, stick with it. Just stick with it. I'm saying that to Greta and River. Stick with it.
Okay.
All right.
I make sure the
Although
river is following us.
The last time I said this, I threw myself off a wizard's tower. So,
I got
you
it.
know,
Whoo! Yeah,
I
exactly.
got it.
Okay. All right. So Selsig, if you want to do this, what I'm going to ask for you, let's see. I'm going to ask you to make a perception check. I don't think you guys have Streetwise in this edition. I don't think you have Street.
No.
All right. I'll ask you to make. I'm going to ask you to do this at +3 because you don't
Okay.
know Neverwinter specifically, but you know cities. So the problem is it's crowded because of the festival, but you can try. So make so make that check for me. So perception, but with +3.
Yeah, it'll be 17 then.
Did it not roll?
It rolled. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I don't have the thing up. There we go. Oh my god. All of a sudden, all of the dice rolled at once. Dear God. I had it like minimized at the time. Okay,
Dice
there we go.
apocalypse.
There we go. Okay, so 19. I was really. I just opened it up. It's like dice. Like, oh, okay. All right, there we go. Dice Lunch. Okay, so and let me make sure. Good. I want to make sure I didn't break anything when that happened. Good. This is proof that Celsic Bar cheats with dice. He used a lot of dice.
Playing card. Nice.
So you do actually find, Celsic, you spot what looks like it might be an alleyway that is sort of above, I should say below, rather, the level of some of the heads of the people. So you're kind of like, like looking basically between legs and stuff, and then you're actually able to see an area which looks like an alleyway. And so you guide folks over to this alleyway, which seems to be, as you go through, relatively unoccupied. There seems to be one snoring person who probably is sleeping off an overexcited night at the festival, perhaps, but they seem to be completely dead to the world and just unconscious. So they're lying face down. But other than that, the alleyway is deserted, and the streets outside are still busy. But so as the five of you, enter, Diego sort of ahead of you, you bring him into an alley.
Right. The minute, like the whole time we've been walking, I've had a hand near his back, like not like friendly, oh my friend, let's walk this way, but kind of like leading him through towards Celsic, and then we kind of go
Very
around
insistent.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm now holding him at arm's length with my hand on his chest with him against the wall, and I just say, talk now.
Okay. So he sort of takes a moment and he says,
oh, just before I do that, actually,
yes.
I just glanced at Greta and River and I say, in there, he mentioned he knew where the Ring of Winter was. Now, unless somebody else told him what the Ring of Winter was and that we wanted it, he knows valuable information.
Okay, can I like very secretly ask you what's loots?
I think it's when people talk
sounds like
about
a shame,
sex.
Oh, that just like
What did you say? What did you say?
Anyone who's been in a party with me say that?
I missed what you said. I was in the middle of capturing something. What did you say?
I
asked what loots was, and she said it's when people talk about sex.
Oh God, the birds and the loots. That's funny.
The loots and the harps.
The loots and the.
Everyone's had that song.
You see, when a lute and harp love each other very, very much.
I mean, it's not gonna be LOOT, I guess. So I figured out it would be LEWD. So
Oh, lewd.
Oh, lewd. No.
That's even
I
better.
use no.
Lute, Lute, like
The
the
instrument.
musical instrument.
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
meant. Not the
I'm
lute.
yeah, well now it's too late. Don't play with non-native speakers, and you don't have this problem.
As a dwarven
We looted the loot.
native speaker to a half of barbarian.
I like to think that you're actually having this discussion in front of him, so he just looks more and more confused. He's like, all right, we're all on the same page then, I suppose.
Quiet, you.
I think he's cursed or something.
So he says, so he looks up and he says, my friends, I am most grateful to you, and I hope I'll have a chance to explain. Well, you see, it's like this. I have been in the business of telling stories and singing songs for many years now, and there are some stories and legends which are so powerful, so well known, that everyone, no matter of the city, knows of it. It was a pretty good guess that you were looking for something. And I happen to know that one of the things that has been causing problems are the giants. There's a long time connection between the ring and the giants, and so, you see, I thought it was important to describe that. I assumed you were looking for the ring, and I have some good possible leads for you. That was the basic idea behind my little suggestion back in there.
I think he's cursed.
Do I know if he's lying?
Yeah,
You can
we
make
see
an
if it's like-
sure. Go ahead and make an insight check for me. And
'Cause the
Celsic
lucky
and
get-
Rush can both do that.
Yeah. Sorry, which one was it? 'Cause
Insight.
insight.
Yes, insight.
Ooh.
It's not great for me. No.
Nope, not gonna Adam. I'm just
seems
like,
seems
words.
totally on the up and up. You're like, you know what,
Words.
this guy. Yeah, I mean, he
Words
seems
sound nice.
he sounds like a guy who, as you know, has a rather, as was said about a certain current illegitimate United States president, has some unclear relationship with the truth. But in this particular case, it seems that he doesn't seem to be going out of his, like, he seems very nervous, but he seems more nervous like, I have 4 people that are really angry at me type of thing. And he does seem to be putting together, I mean, he could make up a better story than this, let's put it that way, if he wanted to. And, you know, but be that as it may, he may also be a really good liar. That's quite possible.
Okay, so what do you want? I mean, except for Urash not beating you up.
He says, well, it's
Feed him
quite...
up. I was going to feed him to Winter. River.
Sorry?
No.
River.
Oh.
I was going to feed him to River.
And he
Let's
sort
not
of,
start there.
he looks up at River and he's like, would she do that? I
Yes.
thought she
Feet
was.
first.
I thought she was the party member.
Can I just like lean in and start sniffing him
Even
vigorously?
even the crunchy bit.
What did you say, River?
I just want to like lean in and start sniffing him vigorously.
He's like, I'm not very good. I'm very stringy. Wait a minute. He holds up his hand. He's like, no. Wait. This is no. You would not look. You can say whatever you like about me, but I can tell that you are a party that has good intentions. You're trying to figure out what's wrong, and there are many things wrong about this place. You would have just taken the Weevil to someplace else, or killed him, or gone into business with him. That's what my friends would do. But not me, of course. I'm totally different than them. I can tell that you're the kind of people who, well, they have a conscience and they think about things. They don't just care about money. You have higher purpose, right? And he turns around and claps you on the back, Selsig. You are a person who thinks about other things besides money. I can tell. You're the kind of person who sacrifices yourself. Any personal gain is removed. Also, you can simply help your friends. Look, you've even given up one of your own body parts for it. And he points to the hand that's still clearly heavily bandaged that you have. And he's like, I can tell that you're the kind of people that, well, you wouldn't just kill a no-accountant like myself. On the other hand, I can help you. For I know legends, my friends, and I can give you information. I know more about the Sword Coast than, well, anybody. And I could give you information about magical treasures and places where things could be found. Like rings, for instance. And maybe one of them is the Ring of Simber. So, I'd like to help you, and in return, you give me all the materials for songs. I'll sing the best ones. Then perhaps I'll even get into the best one of all. It's called CBGB's. That place, a club that speaks to me. They don't let me in because they claim that I, Diego Maradona, am not a bard worthy of their quality. They say that my songs are derivative and that I lie all the time. And the second part may be true, but the first part is not true. I am an original and a creative, but I need more better stories. And you could help me. I could watch you and make up great tales and music, and then I could play them for the inns, and that's all I want. Someone to give me material, and not to kill me. And in exchange, I will give you my stories, my knowledge, my wisdom, and my ability to hit a C chord on cue. Bring! And he plays a C chord.
Just really quickly, can I take Selsig to one side? Can I ask him if I can speak to him a second?
You can do that.
Yeah.
You do what you like.
I'll go with him.
Yeah, so I'm no longer pinning Diego against the wall. I will, however,
He falls off.
Look to River and Greta and say, if he moves, River can eat him. Okay, we'll be back in a second.
No, we're not gonna start bad habits here.
Oh,
I'll wink. I will wink at Greta. Okay.
As you step away,
That's it.
Urash, you see that you see River hears him saying something like, "I'm really not very. You wouldn't like me. I'm gamey and I'm clearly past my expire date.
I'm too spicy,
You wouldn't
yeah.
want to eat me at all. I wouldn't
I'm
like
very
more.
I bet you can get some nice sauces at this festival.
I'm probably trichinosis is a thing, and I don't. So he's talking to you. Okay, so Urash and Selsig, you guys are by one side.
I'm going to take Selsig out of earshot of Diego and just say, so, I don't disbelieve him, but I don't know how much I trust him. But I think it's worth you maybe checking him, as in checking his belongings, to see if he's got any tokens, talismans. Everyone who's tried to kill us recently has been carrying something of their order or of their affiliation.
I've got quite the collection. I hold up the
I
bird
know,
feet
we've been
like
stacking
9
them
months
up.
ago.
We'll be stacking them up, mate. So I think it might be worthwhile if the consensus is we agree to this, then you definitely need to double check his belongings to make sure he's not one of the potentially numerous people we've annoyed over the last few months. What do you think?
I think it's the cleric. She has a way with people.
Yeah, I don't know. We nearly dropped a wizard's tower on the Zentarim, so I think that was all of us. And the giants don't like us, and anyway, we've annoyed a lot of people. So I just think if we do,
I like us.
I like us too. We're friends. We're family. But you are my tribe, without a shadow of a doubt. I just think if we do this, then you need to, if openly or secretly, just check in. What do you think?
I don't see much point in secrecy. We're pretty clear that we don't trust him.
We don't trust him. Okay.
I was all for you just picking him up by the ankles and shaking him and see what falls out.
Oh, good. Excellent stuff. Okay, that's it. Okay,
Shake our sort.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to walk back to Diego.
Okay, while they're doing this, Greta and River, besides just River sniffing him up and down, are either of you doing anything with him besides just sort of, or for that matter, just,
To him or
to
around.
him, with each other, playing Pinochle, like, I mean,
Does he have
I'm
all of his
staring at him.
I'm
And
mostly
I'm
just leering.
Okay.
That's also very good. I'm just staring at him and I'm trying to seize him up a bit because I think something must be really, really wrong with him because he got everything wrong so far. So I don't think that any information coming from this guy can be good. And at this point I'm wondering whether he's cursed or something because this is not normal. And I'm saying that after all we have seen so far.
That's a bold statement after what we've been through.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'm just staring at him and trying to make any sense of this guy, and I wonder whether he's also part of the secret society. But yeah, I don't want to talk to him because, like I said, I wonder whether he's cursed. So I just want to stare at him.
And I think he's a bad man because he accused me of being in a group of loots, which now I think has to do with sex and makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's also
I
that.
think he's a bad man.
There's also that. So yeah.
So he, okay, so he's kind of looks nervously back and forth. He says, "So it's nice and quiet this time of year, isn't it?" And you hear like horns outside and everything. And he's like, so then, yeah, go ahead, Greta.
Have you been cursed?
And he says, "Oh, my dear lady, to see you and your radiant beauty is never a curse."
Radiant, yeah.
And Selsig and Urash come in a step later, and Diego sort of looks up at you with a hopeful expression and says, "Yes, my friends."
So, essentially, you want to give us information on the Ring of Winter, and we will let you follow us around and write stories down, and then sing them in your establishments here in Neverwinter, presumably.
Yes, indeed. I've already been at some of the smaller venues, but they're mostly open mics. Nothing worthy of my talent. When they can see the way that I can maintain a run of notes, they'll want me at CBGB's. That is my dream. CBGBs. Every time he says CBGBs, which you swear you've heard of in another universe, every time he says that, you sort of look up. He sort of looks up, and it seems almost as if this can't possibly be happening. But Greta, it really freaks you out because it almost seems like a shaft of light falls on his face for just a second. Like even if you're in the dark, it just says that, and then like shaft of light, and then it disappears. And you're like, you look around, and you're like, did anyone else see that? But then like every time he says it, and he says, "That is the place. But until then, I must gather material, and I have a feeling that we'd work well together as a partnership.
Yeah,
But yes, I will give you any information you need, my friend. I am the perfect resource for you. Think of me as well, what would they call it these days? I am perhaps a Maradonapedia, if you will, of all information necessary in the Sword Coast."
Oh,
I look at the other guys like, he got everything wrong so far, like everything. I don't see any reason to use him as a source. Unless we're going to do the opposite of everything he says.
I have a suggestion. How long would you want to follow us around for? Is it whilst we're just in Neverwinter?
Oh, well, that would depend, my friends. I am happy to follow you around in Neverwinter. Believe me, by the way, I will not trouble or bother you. In fact, I'm not much use in combat, you see. I am more of a musician than a fighter, but in certain circumstances, I might be able to, well, give you information about certain objects that you might acquire. Perhaps you may not know what it is, but I promise you, Diego Maradona knows. I understand the deepest depths of every book that exists, and every wizard's tome is known to Diego Maradona. They call me the Eyes of Neverwinter.
Okay, something is wrong with this guy. Can't you see that?
Calls you that.
I hold up my hand and go, he's not the only one.
No, seriously, this is not normal behavior. People don't come up like Lou, like, I know everything, let me travel with you. This is not okay. Something is wrong here.
He says,
How did you?
Go ahead.
How did you hear about us? Why did you mention the Ring of Winter to us?
He says,
Us specifically.
well, he sort of thinks about it, he goes, some might call it, unfortunate people might call it a lucky guess, but I certainly wouldn't call it that. I know that the Ring of Winter is tied in with the giants, and it is very obvious that you are not from here. You have had encounters with others, and if you have captured the Weevil, it means you've been out and about in the land. And if you've been out and about in the land, it means that you know the giants are a problem. And if you know the giants are a problem, and if you're a good party that returns the Weevil to the people that desire him most, instead of getting more profit for yourself, it means you are a good people, and therefore you want to fight the giants, and therefore you're looking for the Ring of Winter.
No.
Impeccable logic.
I'm with Mr. Zeno on this. The Bard is a lightning rod for trouble.
I don't know who this Mr. Zeno is. If you're speaking about some of the common rabble out there, those people who like to chatter with each other and put on certain faces that seem to have sarcastic images to them, I have heard them. This one I encountered, his name was Rodrigo Kappa. And this Rodrigo Kappa, what does he know other than sarcastic faces? You must not listen to them. Not to listen to Mr. Zigo. You must listen to me and, of course, to your party members. You may not think of much of me, my friend, but you will think of my knowledge and my loot. Bring! Dun, 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 dun.
You're a bad man.
What?
Yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
Well,
yours.
that's true. Oh, you don't mean in a good
Lovely.
way. Oh,
I look at the other guys and I like shake my head, like, no.
Okay, can I?
We're going to have to search you.
I wanna. Yeah. Celsic,
do
can-
that.
can
so
you search it?
what is mine is
And
yours, my friends, and what is
I-
yours is
I
mine.
wanna
I mean,
have a chat. I want to have a chat with River.
No,
to
I'm
one
not
side.
gonna give him my pony.
So I beckon him to kneel down so I can start patting him. I'm an earthling.
Yeah.
okay.
My associate is going to just essentially frisk you. He's going to go
Okay.
through your pocket.
I will do that. While you're doing that, are you guys talking with each other, or are you just having Celsig just frisk him first?
I'm going to talk with Greta and River.
Okay, go ahead and do that,
Okay.
Celsig. I'll talk to you about what you find in a minute.
Okay.
So, Greta, River, or Ush?
So we're out of earshot of both Celsig. Not out line of sight, but out of a general earshot.
Okay, one thing to point out, though, this isn't that big an alley, so, I mean, you just have to keep your voice down,
No,
basically.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to be screaming at them.
Got it. Got it.
I'll be using my inside voice, don't worry.
Got
Yeah, this guy,
He's trouble. Let's leave him here.
he stinks of trouble,
Yes.
but he may know something.
But he
Yeah, but
keeps
is it-
talking about his loot. Isn't that gross?
That's
It is
I-
completely
that's
gross.
That's not what you think it is. It's his musical instrument that he keeps playing. That's a lute.
That's a loot.
That's
And
a
I look
lute.
at Greta horrified because she lied to me.
I'm also like, I've heard the story before. It didn't end well.
Anyway, aside from
Yeah.
we can have that talk later. It's fine. I think
So,
maybe ask him for one piece of information. See if it pans out. If it does, he may be worthwhile sticking with us while we're in Neverwinter,
no.
until we go to the ball. That is.
It might be the only useful piece of information he has, and I don't really think that he has anything we need. And I think he's going to make everything far more difficult. I mean, we're part of like a secret society right now. Try being secret with that guy around.
This is
And,
true.
And really, I just want to get rid of him. And I certainly don't want him to make songs about the things we're doing, because we're trying to like do it.
Come on, Greta, we're heroes. People are going to write songs about us. You
I'm
can't
not-
stay anonymous and save the world.
I'm not helping the world to become famous. I'm saving the world because everybody needs the world.
Exactly, and people are going to write songs about us regardless. Wouldn't you rather they be accurate?
Well,
Yeah,
but, I mean,
I'm not
have you seen this guy's accuracy? Though I mean, really.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one.
River is so right.
I'm with you on that. Which is why, actually, I don't even know why I'm arguing. I don't want this guy around.
Yeah, let's see. So,
I
where's
want
the thing?
information on the Ring of Winter, but I don't want this guy to be following us around. No, I'm with you guys. I
Yeah,
don't. I
so-
don't want him- I don't
Can we
want
just
him
eat him? We'll keep him around and we'll use him as bait, and then when he's not useful, we'll just eat him.
No. River,
we'll think
we-
about that.
No.
We'll sit on that one.
Oh,
Okay, while you guys are talking, Celsig, this is one of the oddest combination. Like this is the strangest pat down that you've ever seen, that you've ever been experienced. Either being patted down or patting down somebody else, because this guy, first of all, has more pouches. Like, first of all, he's assured you that he has nothing, and then you just find like 15 different pouches. Like, one is sort of inside his shoe, and it has one oddly shaped, like, it basically looks like a coin that looks like a peanut, like a peanut shaped coin, and it says something about admit one, and it says Neverwinter 2102 or something like that, like some old rusty thing. He's got a pouch sort of behind him, hidden at the back of his belt, basically, and inside that you find a couple of odd-shaped keys. There's another one that you find what seems like a couple of quills, like writing quills, maybe. There's another pouch that you look in, which actually has what looks like some strange, like metallic balls of some kind in there. Then there's another thing that has a couple of tickets that say something like admit one Neverwinter timeshare. Like, there's just all of these strange, as if some guy just went around and collected things from people that, you know, you don't know.
He killed.
I've found a point and click
Herpes.
antagonist, haven't I?
Yeah. You basically have found the Bard of Things, is what you found here. And you also find on him a dagger, which is in a sheath. That one is fairly visible. And then, of course, you find one pouch, which he seems very agitated. He's like, oh, be careful. Be very careful with that, my friend. Be very careful. Inside this pouch are a number of what look like small triangular pieces of wood, or plastic. Not plastic. Plastic in the world of D&D, no. Wood, and then some kind of metal is what I meant to say. Metal and wood. And they are all shaped roughly the same, but they have little, they have what look like things scribbled on them. Like, you can't read them. They might be names or something that seem to be scribbled on each of these small triangular shaped pieces of wood and metal.
I don't know. I can't even think how that would mean anything to me. I can show it to the others.
And he says, oh, be careful, my friends, but please be very careful with that.
We just gotta be sure.
Those are all priceless.
What are they?
How so?
What are they? What are they? And he seems almost offended. He's like, well,
Yes,
I'll show
what are
you. If you let me have one of them, I will demonstrate.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can have everything else.
Back.
Okay.
I'm readying it.
So he takes one of them. He's like, this is where the magic happens. And he goes, "Bum-da-da-da-da-da-da," and he like picks it. He uses it on his guitar and his lute, and he starts picking it, and he makes all these sounds back and down. And he says, yes, this was the autographed one. I remember it so well. It was when I saw the man of Robinho Delinho. He was a great musician, and I saw him performing. It was You Were a Rolling Rock, and then he performed his other great hit, How Do You Feel? And then there was another great hit, which was The Boxer. I think that was what it was called. And then another great hit, and he starts going through all these things. It was a wonderful concert. I tried to record every one of them in my mind so I could play them back. It was this concert, my friends, that set me on my inevitable path to CBGBs. And he puts his hand up, his head up in the light, shaft of light for a minute. And he says, each of these picks has been autographed. That's right. Each of these pieces that allows me to play my guitar with the magic that I do has been autographed with the magic of the people that gave them to me. And then he starts naming off different people. That one is a man named Jaman Handrikso. He was one of the great ones. I remember perhaps his greatest one. Excuse me while I touch this guy. dun dun dun, and he starts playing dun 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 dun.
Can I just like randomly eat one while he's talking?
He starts singing indigo haze into my brain. What are you eating? No, 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 no. And he holds up his hand. He's like, no, I can't. Oh, no, why would you have done that? That was my Enrico Claptono pick. I don't know where I will find it again. And he's
you know the one about being free as a bird?
And he starts playing the song, Do You Know My Name? And he starts playing some ballad song.
Okay.
I'm with everybody else on this one.
So-
Did you
Have
swallow
you
it
found-
whole? Because maybe I'll get it back in about 24 hours. Just make sure you don't. I just want to know.
62 Dragonborn poop.
Celtic, did you find anything that, useful on him?
I think he's either a member of a lot of secret societies or none at all.
Okay, I think we just talked it over, and Mr. Maradona, we don't have any use for your company.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Oh, well, all right then. I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, who would really need Diego Maradona? Not even his
Okay.
own.
Let's leave. He's still talking,
Indeed.
but still
Not
leave.
even his own mother, perhaps.
Indeed.
No need to leave. I'll leave first. May I have my picks back, please?
Can I like try to throw up the pick and then I just end up like spilling bile all over his hand?
Aww.
He's like,
He needs to pick them up before he goes. Go!
yeah, he doesn't even, well, he doesn't even, like, so he doesn't even pick it up. He just kind of, he says, what does it matter? And he turns around, and then he plays a note. And now, remember, there was a crowd right outside this alleyway, right? So he plays this, and suddenly you see a clear passage, like, straight through, as if, not as if the people were cut in half, but as if they were suddenly shifted without seeming to react to it. They just shifted out of the way. It's just empty now, like in this passageway that he apparently just created. And he
Okay.
starts walking towards the passageway.
That seems useful.
No.
He walks just one step slowly at a time.
It is useful, but I have a feeling that guy's going to get us in very deep trouble.
And
Yes.
he enters the
Okay.
crowd, and there is one last moment of farewell. And I know, and then bring, and then the crowd whoosh, reappears, and the passageway disappears.
I yell after him, don't worry, your heart will go on.
Exactly. Oh man!
Oh God. Okay. Well,
All right.
let's find a nice. Did we talk with Lord Arthur and everybody around that? Were we going to some kind of inn? Was
Yeah.
that what we were doing before?
I believe there
I'll
was.
be honest, this entire thing is made me forget what on earth we're doing in Neverwinter.
I think we're just handing in the
Vacation?
Weevil and then leaving again for Waterdeep for the ball.
I could do with finding the House of Healing as I'm waving my bandaged hand around again.
Yeah, let's do that. That seems much more reasonable than
That's
anything
not a bad
else.
shout. So we teleported here, didn't we?
Yes.
You did. Now, I want to mention, if you are looking on the stream, you'll be able to see the map that I actually pulled up. Quick side note, this map is taken from a book that I got when I was in my travels, because I'm always thinking about trying to help out players. I got the book, The Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. So
Nice.
this has a map of Neverwinter, which you can now actually see on your stream and on your screen, chat. So you guys were just in the Hall of Justice talking to Lord Arter. When you originally passed, and the thing I wasn't able to find is I couldn't remember if he told you about the Sleeping Dragon or the Winged Wyvern. I think it was the Sleeping Dragon.
Yes.
But that was the one that he basically told you. He gave you the little pass that would allow you to get supposedly food for free. Also, you have the little pins that give you access to this festival. So supposedly a lot of the places will honor that and will give you food and stuff like that. And you're on as you can see, the western side of Neverwinter, basically. The place that you were coming from was over in I believe it was the Tower District is where you first teleported in. So you'd need to go back over. But again, there's a lot of people there right now.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we
it
will
is-
find it if I
sorry.
remember rightly. Sorry.
food, sleep, healing. I think that's what we're gonna do.
Yes, I'm on that idea. Quick question for Arv.
Yeah, sure.
Is before or after the events of Neverwinter Nights? Just because your map last time was a bit different because it had the scar.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right, the chasm. Well, actually, let me double check because I think you can actually still see the chasm.
There is something there on this map.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Just
this
in
is
the top
actually,
right corner, but
yeah, this is actually what, that's the thing that is what it should be looking like.
Okay.
There was, however, a break that was there. This was later, so it's after the chasm had been healed and all that. But there was a space that you would have had to cross over because they didn't like reseal it or anything like that. So yeah, I have the official map now, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So all right,
yeah.
so you guys are heading to this sleeping dragon.
Food, drink, and rest. Yep.
Okay. So you push your way through the crowd. It is not easy to do it, obviously. River, there are just succulent smells from everywhere. I mean, like, you know, there's places that look like they have these strange fried cakes with what looks like powdered sugar on top of them. There look like these shish kebabs of some kind of obscure meat. There's several places where there is like a clearly a pig, which is completely roasted, of course, which is being roasted over a spit. There are people coming up to them and doing that. You see somewhere this thing, there's a little box that says Dipino Datos, the something, and it says something about the ice cream of the future. You don't know what that means, but you see it there too. And so there's a whole bunch of these things as you're walking through the streets, and the smells are just delectable.
So as we're walking, I just like walk up to stalls and just show them the pin and then take what they'll give me.
Okay,
Like,
and you
like
do
no
that, and
worry.
most of them do it. You're not sure if they do it mostly because of that or because you're a dragonborn who keeps leering at them, but either way, by the time you arrive close to the sleeping dragon, Greta, I'm guessing that River is in the back doing this, so Greta, you turn around to see that River is just stumbling under an entire armful of foodstuffs. There's like loaves of bread, and there's like, you think the pig you saw is actually the entire pig with the spit has somehow been placed in her arms, and like she is just like half eating and half stumbling along, with people trying to give her a wide berth because this is rather troubling anyway, as much as they possibly can. She's dropping behind her, like, you know, some of the sugar keeps dropping behind her and sauce keeps dripping on the ground. And
Okay, I'll just keep an eye on her so that we don't lose her, but I'm happy with this because if she eats that much, she should really get it now while it's free.
yeah, it looks pretty good. It's delicious food, by the way, River. It's solid festival food
Yeah.
for sure.
Wonderful. That's this is fine. We actually, after all this traveling, we need some good stuff. So let's get some good food, get some good rest, and get some healing for Celsic. This seems fine.
I'm going to pick up some items of food while I'm walking as well.
Okay, do
Just
you want to
like,
pick them up from the stalls or from River? Because by the time River's done, a lot of the stalls don't have any.
Oh, man, I'm not getting in the way of his food. Jeez.
I feel like I'd lose a hand.
You
Okay.
insane.
No, because they're ahead of me, right? So they can get their food.
That's
before
true.
I
They can get it just
Yeah.
beforehand. That's true.
We'd
So-
be in the party of the severed fingers if I did that.
That's true. Yeah, yes, you make a good point. Celsic kind of looks at you, it's cross-eyed, but yes. So, all right, you grab. So you are able to get a little bit of food. Now, there's almost any kind of food you can imagine. Do you have like a particular preference for food that you want, or
Meat.
meat? Okay,
Meat.
there's
Meat on
definitely plenty of
sticks.
that.
Meat on sticks or meat on bones.
There's definitely plenty of that. There's also some very delicious, just so people know, vegetable options, and things like that. You see, there's one sign that's spelled, seems to be misspelled somehow, Viegun, and it's run by this, what looks to be this small kind of cross-eyed goblin, who's behind it and is saying something like, "Hummus! Hummus and chickpeas for sale! Hummus and chickpeas for sale! Do not hurt the animals! Help the goblins! Help the animals! And help your tummies to hummus and chickpeas!" And he's got this enormous bowl of mashed up chickpeas, apparently, is what it looks like, with some kind of thing that's been drizzled over the top, and a huge bucket of what looks like crisp bread or crackers right next to it. So that's definitely available as well if you wanted to stop by
Genuinely
there.
making me hungry.
Yeah, there's all these things. Well, you know why? It's because they're actually making dinner downstairs in my house, so I figured I'd just deliver all these things that are happening. You're all going to be as hungry as me
I
when
can
I'm
smell
done.
hummus. I'm going to make everyone want hummus.
Exactly. You smell some salmon. Okay. Anyway, so when you finally get when you get up to the Sleeping Dragon Inn, you will both have gotten the food that you want. Celsic and Greta, are you getting any food, or are you just kind of like, this is good, let's keep going? Like, what's your?
No, I'll definitely make sure I'm well fed by the time we've got to the destination.
Got it.
Yeah, I just decided that Greta likes hot food, so I'm trying to get some kebab things with hot spices and everything, and I'm happy.
Okay. There's one, Greta, I should say, just before you get to the sleeping dragon, that smells delectable. And it is a large, silent man, dark of skin, who is standing behind, and he's wearing some exotic clothing. You notice there seems to be some stripes on his clothing. They're kind of silky, poofy shirt, and he has his arms folded. He has an enormous gold earring in his right ear and an enormous silver earring in his left ear. And he gazes down at you as you smell this delectable smell coming from behind. It's this smell of spice and some kind of chicken fowl of some kind coming from back there. And he looks down at you kind of impassively as you sort of smell that.
Yeah, I look up at him in this case, and like, that sounds wonderful. I'm a wearer of the purple pin, and I would like to sample your wares, please.
And he looks for a moment, and then he goes, "Certainly." And he turns around, and he, with one strong arm, lifts up this leg of chicken, basically, and then dives it into this bowl. So just like, shoo, and like rubs it around, and it comes out, and there's this red spice of some kind that is placed on, and he says, "Enjoy it. Enjoy it
much.
for a long time."
Will
And then
do.
folds his
Thank
arms.
you.
Okay.
So, I'm walking away happily with my chicken leg.
Okay. You're taking a bite of it, I assume.
I'm not stupid and I like hot food, so I'm gonna wait until we're inside the inn where there's lots of beer.
Got it. Okay. So you guys now get inside. So when you walk into the inn, I just want to set the scene. So you walk in the inn with three of you. Urash is munching on, so let's say, some pork roast, something like that. Selsig is well fed, although he hasn't specified as to what. I'm going to assume that it's several large sandwiches, perhaps, that he's kind of munching on, double fisting it, basically.
Squid.
And then you've got
Definitely
Greta holding up the large chicken leg with the spice on it, and then bringing up the rear. So the three of you enter, and there is a sort of large man who walks forward and says, "Yes, may I help you?" And then he sees the three of you with your stuff, with your food, and he says, "What may I?" And then River lands through the door with just trailing food all the way through, in and out, like behind you, and stops just in time. And he looks, he says, "May I help all of you?"
Hello, my good man. This is such a wonderful festival. We're the wearers of the purple pins this year, and we're looking for rooms.
He says, "Looking for rooms. Yes, unfortunately, our rooms are completely full. We do not
No?
have room for extra people. And really, this is not an establishment where we allow people to BYOF. That means bring your own fowl." And he looks at the chicken leg that you're holding. He says, "So I'm going to have to ask you to depart. I am so apologetic for this terrible circumstance that exists." Yes.
I look back at my party like, who did recommend us to go here? Wasn't it Lord Arthur? And I say that very loudly.
Considering we did a great service to Lord Arthur and got these pins in reward for them, he seemed really confident that you'd be more hospitable than this.
Yeah,
says, "Wait."
freedom of the sea doesn't seem to mean what we were led to believe it would
He
mean.
says, "Oh, wait." And his manner completely changes. Lord Arthur sent you. Really? Well, perhaps there may be some way I can squeeze you all in. Perhaps just come with me, please." And he kind of glances at River as another loaf of bread hits the ground. Thunk. River, you are in the midst
I
of...
pick it up and stuff it back into her arms.
Okay. She would like to help you, but she right now is kind of like... She's eating through like one half of the pig.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So you guys all sort of, walk forward more or less. And he brings you to this... behind what might be this bar, but you notice that the inside of the Sleeping Dragon, this is a very neat place. Like, you guys have been in a lot of taverns and a lot of inns. This is very upscale, maybe. Like it's very kind of, you can see that there's like lots of, there's some beautiful picture on the walls. There's very little clutter. And until you entered, very little on the floor, except for what is now on the floor.
It's the kind of place with glassware rather than just like wooden tables.
Exactly. Like it all seems and there's two guards, presumably guards that are standing at the staircase that sort of look at you, kind of just staring at you. They're not like threatening yet, but they're just very clearly staring at all of you.
Whatever River drops, I'm going to pick up again.
Okay. So as you guys are walking over, the man stops behind this this bar in quotes, although again it's got like a couple of wine bottles. Basically, that's how you would know it's a bar. And he pulls out this large leather-bound book and puts it on the table and opens it. And he begins to, he says, yes, in room 70, room 16, room 20. Ah, yes, indeed. I have a perfect room for you. It is, of course, room number 13. Luckiest one. Ha 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 ha. Ha.
Ha ha ha.
Those of you, you either laugh or you have your mouths full. So either way.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, well, I do indeed have some room. It will, of course, be somewhat expensive. And there are, of course, cleaning fees associated. And he kind of,
I'm
like his
pretty
eyes
sure Lord
drift.
Arthur can deal with this.
He says,
Lord Arthur's got this.
all right, then. Well, then I will be happy to give you room 13. It should be plenty large enough for your needs. And he turns around the ledger and pushes it forward, and you see there's a spot that says room 13, and then there's a line next to it where you presumably could sign your names.
Good sir, what is your name?
And he says, my name is Felis, madam, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Sleeping Dragon. And when he says it reverently, Dragon.
In the evening, do you have a bard in this establishment?
Why,
Entertaining
absolutely, lady. We have only the finest of musicians. Well,
that's good then.
and he says, indeed, and we look forward to seeing this person every night. He usually plays for an hour or so. Sets the mood, you might say.
May I ask your bard's name?
Oh, certainly. His name is Manero Marico. He is a man from a distant city, but he is very well disciplined and has been trained by some of the finest. I have actually heard him play myself. He is quite good, and I am, well, although I can't speak for every other inn, but I'm fairly confident that none could boast a musician as good as we have, madam.
Wonderful. And I'm going to sign my name next to room 13.
Okay. Now he asks the rest of you to do that too.
Okay.
Celsig, you do that?
I sign Stavros Crownthorn in brackets.
Okay, I was gonna comma Ranger Bard. Yeah. Okay. Urash, you're gonna sign?
I put X.
Yeah, okay, you put X. Now, River, to sign, you would need to have a free hand, and the problem is you've got a lot of food, so...
I was thinking if there was a way for me to maneuver, I'd just lick the page.
All right, so you kind of
Just
move
like
the pile of over, and you're like try to like this side. So he kind of, yes, excellent. And he turns it around, looking at the slobber, which is already like smudged all the other lines, like above it and below it, basically. And he,
Urash is just like, the more time I spend with you, the more I like you, River.
so he kind of he sort of places the ledger. Yes. Well. I will, of course, have one of my men show you to your room. And he nods, and one of the guards steps forward and bows slightly.
Thank you very much. We will also need the directions to the best house of healing in this city.
And he says, oh, the House of Healing. Well, let me think. And he kind of considers it, and he says, I think your best bet probably would be somewhere... Well, of course, Castle Never has the finest, but Lord Neverwinter does not allow just everyone to use his own personal cleric. If I were you, I would head to the north of this enclave, the Protector's Enclave. There's a place called the House of Knowledge. Nearby there you will find a temple. It is, of course, Tyre's temple. Tyre, the one who is above us all, greater than all of the other gods.
Okay. Wonderful.
Furiously.
Well,
Okay, that's great. Then thank you very much.
All right.
And so I turn to the guard to lead us to the room.
Okay, sounds good. After that, they changes the name to Weeping Dragon Inn. Yeah, exactly, Eddie Bell. That's exactly what he does. All right, so you guys.
What's a tier?
It's a god.
I
It
think
is. It is
a god.
indeed a god.
How does he compare to your one?
Well, all the other god makes my god look good, so it's fine.
Is that really what you
Not my
say?
opinion.
Oh man.
I'm just like, hey. It takes me like a solid couple of seconds. Though. I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Next time on Dungeons and Dragons, the blasphemy trial.
Exactly.
Well, you have
Suddenly
to
it's
see
murder in the cathedral. Like what the?
You have to see that Faltus light shines on everyone, no matter what god they believe in. So Faltus is there for everyone anyway. Doesn't matter.
I want to point out that when you said that, your camera went out of focus for 5 seconds. I'm just saying. I'm sure it had nothing to do with that. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm seeing it now.
Just saying.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So they lead you up the stairs, and River, you have a little bit of difficulty because it's sort of hard to walk while also carrying, several things. You somehow found that some goblets of liquid ended up in this group, so you're kind of like trying to balance that at the same time. And you get up to the top. The food, however, continues to be delicious. And so you get to the hall, and they lead you down the hallway, and there's a door that they stop in front of. The guard stops in front of it. It looks just gorgeous. Like, there's like inlaid gold around the outside of it, some kind of like weaving. The door itself is made of this just gorgeous, like not just wood, but it seems to be polished, almost as if it's been shaped and honed. Maybe it's been magically altered in some way. And there is a handle upon it, which is made of some kind of ivory, it seems like, possibly, or some hard white substance of that kind, just like really impressive and shaped and beautiful looking. And the guard opens it, and you just get a glimpse of this gorgeous, 4-poster beds and like just this beautiful like carpet and everything. And then he says, "Oh, I beg your pardon." And he closes it, and you see that he opened the door to 12, and the next one down is 13, and it's a little wooden door right at the end there, and he opens it up, and there's what might be a couple of like a cot, and maybe there's a couple of rolling bed rolls maybe that are on the ground there, and you see a bucket that's in the middle of the room, and he says, "Yes, right here." And it looks like it's barely big enough to fit all of you.
Seriously.
I stride in and put my gear on the cot.
It immediately sags below the weight of your gear.
But it's not. It's this far off it.
I look at the guard, and I'm like putting on my best strict cleric look.
Yeah.
Like, this is the only free room.
He says, "I'm afraid so, ma'am. Everyone's here busy for the festival. I'm afraid that under most circumstances you wouldn't be able to stay at all, but, innkeeper Fellis, he was nice enough to give you the broom closet. I mean, the last room in the inn that we have.
Okay.
And so, yes.
Could you please get us some nice bedding and everything? I mean, you must have spares of those.
Certainly, ma'am." And he bows, and he departs. And you are left inside this. You notice that there is one fitfully sputtering lantern, which is on top of what looks like a stool right next to the bucket.
Well, that's not a problem.
Yeah, no, that you should be able to have handled, yeah. A few minutes later, or a minute later, he comes back, and he has with him some, like, pillows and bedrolls and things like that he's got there. So it appears that he's got some things for you.
I will. I'm just gonna look around the room, and I'm gonna nudge Salsig and kind of say quietly to him, "I wonder if you can teach him your new knife game as payment for this room, eh?"
Hardy ha ha.
I thought you were gonna be like, ha, ha, ho, 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 like this.
Maybe you could show him how you get down a tower.
It's like, what? Too soon? Hey,
Basically.
that was a very quick way of getting down the tower. Just because
It was.
the giant didn't catch me. There's nothing to do with my method, don't.
So,
Now.
River,
Okay,
your
I'm-
tummy, River, is, I should say, you're feeling kind of full, and not 100% well. You know, you felt a little better at times, maybe.
Yeah, I figure I like chose kind of a spot sort of next to the bucket, not really thinking about it, but I've like carefully laid out the remaining food, and I'm just like picking at it now and sitting on the floor and enjoying myself.
Okay, with the next to the
Okay.
bucket. Got it.
But next to the bucket.
Go ahead, Greta.
I cast mending on the cot.
Okay. And the cat goes like, so it's kind of it's up, and now Celsig, when you sort of try to sit down on it, there's no truth to the rumor that I'm basing this at all at the hotel that I stayed at out in LA, which was called the VIP Hollywood Hotel. Sometimes names overcompensate, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. Anyway, you sit on this Celsig, and now it feels as if you were sitting on concrete, stone. You just are like, there's no give at all. You're like, this thing's very strong, like sleeping on stone floor, probably.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Good.
okay?
No, it's fine. This is how a bed should be. This reminds me of my old mountain. This is a good bed.
It is a good
Never
bed.
ask a dwarf for comfort advice.
Quality
And
stone.
Okay, I also
Yeah,
cast
I'm
light
happy.
on. I just cast light on the lantern so that it just glows.
Okay, and it does.
I'm not gonna be stopped here.
It lights
then I
the
just-
room. You can actually see now that there's enough light. You can actually see that there's a couple of little cracks maybe in the roof. Maybe you're not 100% sure. But yeah.
Urash, lift me up. I'm gonna fix those as well.
Okay.
And I'm cast mending on those.
Okay.
It's a cantrip. I can do this forever.
That's true. So you sort of fix things. You know, you fix up a couple of the cracks.
Have you met our cleric Polyfiller?
We go away, we come back, Greta's actually cast mend on the entire place, and it turns out it was a palace.
It's now the waking dragon. So
Okay.
all right. So you sort of seal all those things off. While this is happening, River, you're starting to feel more and more not comfortable.
Yeah.
This is
I-
not. There's a lot of food, and you're not sure that all of it. Maybe this much fried food wasn't the best idea.
No, I start to like slow down, and I'm like longingly still like reaching out and bringing things to my mouth and then setting it down again, and then I was just like, ugh.
I realize that she stops eating, and I'm like, "Are you fine?"
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel funny.
Make a Constitution saving throw for me, River. Let's see how fine you actually are.
I don't know. I'm probably not fine. Let's see.
Are we gonna get the second?
Yeah.
Oh god. Hope not. Let's see. What is my constitution? This one. Oh no, I did 2 pluses.
Wait,
Does it do anything?
No.
It results in
it
zero.
just results
That's
in
not
0.
good.
I'm like, wait, what?
2 pluses. It's like, I don't know. There we go. Wow.
Wow. All right. So
The
long.
iron stomach.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
like
long
eating food.
years. Yeah, like long years of sort of living off the land, River, and a particular love for food of any kind, as long as it's food, has allowed you to inure yourself to the environment. So it feels a little uncomfortable, but, you know, it's still delicious, though. I mean, you don't stop eating KFC because you know what it's actually made of. It's still delicious, and so you continue to eat, and yeah, you're hanging along. You all, by the way, you're pretty confident that River has put away about 4 creatures worth of food at this point. Like, you're pretty sure that this is something which would have killed any of you at this point, like, but to have this much. Even you, Urash, as impressive as you find this, are a little bit like,
I'm very impressed. I want to
Yeah.
go over to River and just kind of. I mean, is she still eating the food?
yeah,
What do
I
you-
mean, she seems okay. I mean, you know, she's slowed down a bit, you know, but
I'm just looking. I don't really know what to say. I was like, do you always eat this much?
No, but it's really good. I can't. It's just sugars and there was a pig, but I killed it, and I point at like just the remaining.
all this just the snout. Like, that's all
Yeah.
that's left. The entire
That's all
rest of the
that's
pig is
left.
gone. Like,
Have you ever eaten this much?
No, no, and it's I can't. This is so good. Nom, 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 nom.
I once saw a snake that swallowed a whole rabbit. It looked like this.
yep.
I'm just gonna say you may just the food's not gonna go anywhere. Okay, there's plenty of food.
Oh, it's gonna go somewhere sooner or
If you-
later.
If you don't feel great, maybe just give yourself a break.
And I just like snarl at him, like he
Hey,
insults.
that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
Oh man.
I think we should now pool our resources and get our
Now we know where
our
the
Celsic here the best treatment at the House of Healing that can be possibly bought, I guess.
Pool our resources. Yes, Celsic, let's pool our resources.
Yeah, any donations would be gratefully welcomed.
Of
Yeah,
course, of
The
course.
line of duty, and you did stick me with the bar tab.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we didn't
Let's go.
pay the bar tab, but you did stick me with it.
Yeah. I still feel kind of guilty that I wasn't able to fix your finger. So yes, of course. Let's go.
How much does healing normally cost, Greta?
I don't know. I've never worked in a House of Healing where they actually charge people. So
Oh, okay. Well, we can go find out. Is that the plan then? That we're going to go find out how much healing is?
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Shopping montage.
Yes, exactly. Shopping one.
I was actually going to ask if I see anywhere that. Actually, I'm going to ask Greta. Do you think anywhere, being magically inclined as you are, do you think anywhere in this town, in this city, would be able to identify magical items?
Of course, in a city of this size, of course.
Okay. Do you know how much that normally costs?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Do you know how to recognize said shops?
Nope.
Okay. I open up the question.
Maybe Celsic. I mean, Celsic seems to know a lot of things about the worst of things. So maybe Celsic.
I
Do you
open up the
know
question to
about
everyone.
such-
Does anyone know how to identify shops that identify things?
Well, the place we're going is next to somewhere called the House of Knowledge. Now,
Oh, good point.
just saying.
Excellent point.
Failing
I
that, I
stopped
might be able to
for a
find you
couple of seconds.
value.
And I just lean into Greta and I'm like, can we go to the House of Knowledge afterwards?
Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So.
I'm not sure why I'm making this kind of decision, but yeah, let's do this.
You're the moral center of our group.
Knowledge is good.
And I'm
Knowledge is
the
good.
amoral center of the
I
group.
was gonna say the only morals.
Yeah.
We have dominated by food, dominated by money.
Wait, hang on. Are we like the Seven Sins?
There's something going on. You've got like a yin and a yang, or like the id and the superego, and
I could see greed, gluttony.
Greed, gluttony.
Who's got? Do I want to know?
Pride.
Never mind. Who's got lust covered? We're not after dark yet. That's never mind. Let's actually,
We covered that in a previous VOD.
yeah, did we?
I'd say
Yes.
Urash had that one covered.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. So all of you depart and then proceed to head out. By the way, River, do you want to? Oh, Greta, you're still holding the chicken leg.
Yeah,
What's going
I'm
on
not
with that?
risking it yet. I don't have beer. I'm gonna grab some beer on the way out somewhere. No
Okay.
problem.
So Greta, who has been holding on to this now for a half hour, departs with this.
I'm like one-handed mending all the things magically with a chicken leg in the other.
Okay. Got it. I was going to say, like, mending with the chicken leg. Don't confuse anybody. All right. So so you depart and you head off to the east. You are going to, by the way, pass several places with beer and water in case you're curious.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna eat the chicken leg.
Okay.
Finally.
All right. So when you take a bite of this chicken leg, you get probably, I don't know, a good couple of minutes away from the Sleeping Dragon before you find this place that's got beer right there. So there's a
Beer,
moment,
beer.
there's just sort of a moment where you bite into it, and the spice is delicious. And then, I don't know if you've ever had this experience of, so, has anyone ever, have any of the four of you ever thrown a boomerang?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
For Pyron, can you describe, when you throw a boomerang, like,
Yes.
technically what happens? What should be happening?
Well, if you throw it correctly, it will go on a curve and come kind of back.
Yes. So I want to explain with a little story what happens here, because my father threw a boomerang once when we were in Central Park, and he didn't throw it quite right, and he threw it towards as he threw it sort of in the direction of this glass windowed restaurant, and the boomerang was like, and you could see the people inside the restaurant, a couple of whom looked out just to see the boomerang that was flying towards the window. And at the last second, the boomerang veered off, right? And basically veered off and then bonked someone in the head who was basically standing away on the other side. Now, you could make an argument the guy shouldn't have been standing right next to where he was standing, but also the boomerang basically curved away from the window and hit him in the back of the head. This is what it feels like when the spice kicks in, because you eat it and you're like, this is what the, and you're like thrown forward, almost. It is your mouth is now fultus. Like you are the fire, it consumes. You are like, this is great stuff. So you are both loving it, but also your mouth is legit. Like you can't, like,
Beer.
yeah. So you just down
It's
a beer.
fine. I'm a very happy Greta right now. Like I've got good food, I've got beer, I've got my friends with me, and right now nothing bad is happening. So that is
So you just sort of down this beer, and the beer, after first spreading the spice, which is actually what happens when you first drink a lot of liquid, despite the fact that we all would drink liquid anyway. I'm not saying we wouldn't, but first thing you do that, yeah, exactly. It's a shark with a lightning bolt. What is that? How do these emotes even exist? Anyway, it is like, yeah. I once had a pepper in a Korean restaurant, and yes, I think my taste buds have only now recovered.
I like spicy food.
It's really hot, but the beer sort of cools it down, and it's this very strange experience because it's delicious but also painful, and the delicious pain is really what you experience with this chicken leg.
Wonderful.
So yes.
So you guys like have Greta working with you, like sweat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's also this intense smell of some spice, which you're not sure is coming from the chicken leg or from Greta's pores. Like one of the two may actually be happening. Like it's just, damn, it's one of those, right?
I had a very similar experience. Somebody offered me a snack at work, and after I had put the snack in my mouth and started chewing, then told me that it was covered in ghost chili.
Oh my God.
Yep. So it's that kind of, I chewed it for a second and I was like, oh, this is quite nice.
This is the
God.
Thank you for the follow, by the way, Doom Croak. I'm sure there's no connection at all to the spice that she's having. Okay, so you guys make your way, and you head up through this. So you start from the Sleeping Dragon. You actually have two ways that you could go, I should say. You could head directly east to where you see that little thing on the map that says the Winged Wyvern. You could then go north up the bridge towards Castle Never. That's called the Blue Lake District up there. And then you head east from the Blue Lake District. Oh, sorry. No, this is the House of Knowledge. I take that back. Never mind. Forget that. Forget I was saying that. I forgot that it was near the House of Knowledge. Never mind. So you can just go up through the Winged Wyvern and then up past the Dolphin towards the House of Knowledge. I take that back. So you go along the kind of curvy path that's right next to the river. As you get closer to this House of Knowledge, you can see what looks like, Greta, several, you're almost certain, churches or cathedrals or temples or something like that, which are sitting next to it, these buildings with various places around it. As you are getting close to one of them, you can hear what sounds like someone is making a speech of some kind. And you can't really hear all the details until you get closer. But there seems to be someone giving a speech of some kind.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay. So you get closer and closer. And as you arrive, you begin to hear, "Indeed, my friends, the question for all of you is not whether or not you can be saved, but how severe will be your punishment. For the maimed god will not look kindly upon all of you. Look at this debauchery all of you have engaged in, this festival, if you will. This celebration of the greatest sins of our people will do nothing for the maimed god except bring low your possible successes and rise to the forefront your theoretical gains. You will pay the ultimate penalty in the sight of Tyr, the god of justice." And you now come around and you see this very impressive looking cleric who's got blue. He's wearing this sort of blue robe, and on the front of the robe you see there is a picture of a sword and a hammer that are kind of crossed across each other. And he's standing in front, and there seems to be a small group of onlookers, most of whom seem to be enjoying food, not unlike you, Greta. And they're all sort of watching as he gives this whatever it is, sermon or speech.
I talk quietly to Urash. So this is what I meant when I said all the other gods make Folters look good. Let's move on.
Yeah, yours is better.
See?
I see.
Perhaps the time will come when all of you will see justice visited upon you. But
We always
for
had
now,
justice
we
visiting us.
simply
Let's
await.
move.
Yeah, we've had justice. Yeah.
Yeah. He and Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you begin to climb the stairs towards this temple, he sees you, of course, because he's giving this speech sort of to the right side of that staircase, and he says, "Look, my friends, here we have 4 more desperately seeking Tyr's advice. The question is, what sins have they committed? Perhaps it is the sin of..." And then he trails off as he sees Greta munching with a beer in one hand and the chicken leg in the other, and then he sees River, who's still got like what's left of possibly like a bag of maybe chips of some kind that she's sort of eating. And Celsig and Orash, you guys are not eating anything else, but he sort of stares at all of you and he says, "Perhaps there is more than one that can be attended to. What do you seek here, non-believers?"
Is he talking to us? He's not talking to us. Let's move.
I'm talking to you.
Yep. Talking specifically to us.
We were told that this is the best house of healing in the city.
You were correct.
Yeah, wonderful. That's what we're looking for.
For
On
those
in.
who are worthy. And he sort of lowers. Now, he lifts his hands, and you are rather shocked to see that he actually has only his left hand. His right hand has been cut, so he just has like half of his arm coming out of the right side. And you remember, Greta, actually, that Tyr is known as the maimed god for a reason, that he actually lost his right hand in battle. And so that the assumption was that some of Tyr's more devoted followers followed suit in the way of their god.
Not the best advisement for a house of healing. Still, let's move in.
But he sort of holds, he holds up his hand,
Blasphemous?
and he sort of blocks you for a second. Go ahead, Celsig. What?
I was gonna say, are they gonna find it blasphemous that I want a body part reattached properly then?
Right,
We'll
it's a good
find
question.
out.
Well, I guess you're going to find out. And he stops you and says, "Wait one moment. Before I allow you inside the house of Tyr, I must know whether you wish good or ill to those within."
Why should we wish ill on somebody in here? Who's inside?
He says, "Several of our finest priests, devotees of Tyr. I would not expect a non-believer," and his eyes flicker down to your chicken leg and then back to you, and to the beer and then to you, "to understand. Nor
Good.
would I expect those who have other things in mind, like previous meals perhaps." And he looks at River because you can see that River's actually got like stuff staining her chin, and like just, her front is just filthy with sauce and like just every conceivable.
Look, we don't want to offend anybody. If it's a problem, we're gonna leave all of this outside. This is your temple, your rules.
He says, "I appreciate your understanding. In Tyr's infinite mercy, the maimed god will allow you passage, but take a care. If you act wrongfully, Tyr will know and strike down from heaven the unbelievers. You will face the right hand of justice. Thank you for the
Okay.
follow, Zyphon." Sorry.
Okay, well, let's move on in.
Okay, so he lifts his hand, you all enter. When you were inside, you see that you were inside a fairly large sanctuary, and there are these crossed swords and hammers like the one that he was wearing all about. You also see a few priests, and in the inside, in fact, I wonder if there's any, I wonder if I can pop up some church music right here. Let's get rid of that. Let's see.
This is the best because this is the session that I have the most food piled up on my desk, and it is so fitting. I never had this much food while playing D&D, and we're playing this festival, and I'm just so happy here.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I have brownies and sushi and cookies and all of the good stuff over here.
All of this is freaking awesome. Okay, is it this one?
Yeah.
Let's see. No, it's not that one. There we go. So you hear like this sort of organ playing in the background, as you enter, and you can sort of see, as I mentioned, these tapestries with the crossed sword and the hammer, and then you see the people, several of them wearing them, and one comes forward, and it is a woman, and she bows to you and says, "Welcome to the house of the maimed god. How may Tyr serve you, and how may you serve the god in his light of justice?"
I bow and say, "My respects to Tyr and his faithful." And then I sort of start unbandaging my hand.
She says, as she sees it, I want to double check. It was your right hand, right?
Yes.
Thank you for the follow on my channel, Viking Jones.
Yeah, right hand ring finger.
As you unbandage your hand, she looks at you and her eyes widen. And she says, "Oh, I am deeply moved, my brother, that you would come to us here." And she and the other priests sort of grab you, not like attacking you, but they're like immediately bustle you off. And as they're you're heading up the aisle, they're like, "It's so wonderful to see this kind of devotion." And you see that they're throwing a blue cloak on you, and kind of, covering. And by the time you're at the front of the cathedral, you're actually wearing a full outfit. And she stops and says, "Brothers and sisters, we have a new convert this day, for he has already severed a portion of his hand, an indication of his devotion to Tyr." And everyone says, "May Tyr and the god of justice be with us."
I'm just going to quickly turn to Greta and River and go, "Oh, now we're definitely going to need a new thief."
And they say, "It is so wonderful that you have come to us. And of course, brother, what is your name?"
So he wasn't a ranger after all. He was a cleric.
I love Mr. Zeno's like,
Made a mistake.
ranger and now
Made a mistake.
He's a thief ranger. Please give me one hell of a business card. Yeah. So he says,
I need it fixing.
"Oh God." So he does this. He looks and he says, so did you give the right name? I'm sorry, Celsic. What name did you give?
I haven't. I'm trying to correct them before this goes any further.
They say, "Please give us your name, O devoted follower, so we may give you the glory and benefits of joining Tyr and his followers. These rich rewards of your service await."
I was told you could fix this. In my line of work, I need it working properly.
"Of course you do, working no doubt with the poor and the indigent." And they say, "Oh, the poor and the indigent, yes.
We are the poor and the
Tyr
indigent.
understands."
He's working with us.
He says, "He's working with you. Then
Yes,
you
my-
too wish to be devotees to Tyr?"
Nope.
Oh,
I'm sorry, we're just tourists, and he was actually looking for healing.
oh, and he has found it. Spiritual healing in the light of Tyr. And as if on cue, a big shaft of light shoots out of like one of the windows, which apparently has opened, and just hits you in the face, Celsic, and you're like, like blinded, like not hurt, but you're like, "I can't." And she's like,
I look at the priest and I ask her, "Do you have a brother called Diego?"
and the priest says, "I don't know what you mean, but
Just
my
asking.
brotherhood is with those who serve Tyr, like our friend. What did you say your name was again?"
His name is Tourist Who Wants Healing.
Tourist with healing. Tourist with healing.
Devotee of Foltes.
Voltus? And she says,
You see like Greta like happily smiling all over.
right, you see Foltus, and like the music stops. Right? And just for a minute, there's just like dead silence. Like everyone stops and turns and just stares, right? And says, and then you hear like this one, there's a cricket in the background, right? And then there's, "We do not serve the servants of Foltus. We tolerate his presence. If you wish healing, you may pay for the same, and then be gone." And Celsic, you have the cloak painfully ripped off you, like, in a second. They say, the one says, "What do you wish to have fixed?"
I point to my ring finger.
And they say, "Excellent. That will be 250 gold pieces, please."
Ouch! Holy moly!
But I can pay.
Problem
I'm just
is
trying
I
to figure out, can I negotiate?
The person is giving you the look that might best be described as lasers from eyes cut people in half type of thing. It is Yeah.
I think better of haggling because I don't want it to drop off in 3 days' time.
Okay, so you give him the money.
I pull out a big jingly money pouch.
Okay. And
Greta looks at you and their big jingling money pouch. Where does that come from?
Exactly, Viking Jones. Just kidding. Everyone praised Tyr.
You guys.
Oh, you guys. Tyr's clearly the best. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm curious, by the way, about how Urash, devoted follower of Tempest, is dealing with all of this.
Urash is keeping his damn mouth shut. There's a lot of followers of Tyr in here, and none of them seem particularly angry at Tempest.
Okay. So, as the money arrives, they begin to actually help again, and you can see that they kind of she lowers her hand, and you also see that she's using her left hand. Her right hand is still concealed beneath her cloak, and she uses her left hand, and she touches the spot where the finger is and makes several incantations. And Celsic, you have a very strange experience. Have you ever had a foot fall asleep? Or, your hand or something like that. There's this sort of tingling sensation and then painful sensation. And then you can basically see your finger beginning to essentially... Now, did you guys bring the old finger? I forgot. Did you...
They reattached it.
They reattached it. It was on already. I was right. I was
attached.
just checking.
Yeah.
So you begin to see the flesh knit properly around the spot where it had been attached. And as the priest is watching it, she says... I wonder if Photis was the one who healed you initially. And she kind of looks over in your direction, Greta. Fascinating.
And I smile benevolently at her. Yes, Photis was at the ready.
I would never have been able to guess. And then turns her eyes back.
That laugh that I just did is literally what Urash just did as well. Just like a proper snigger, like...
And she, but within probably a couple of minutes, it's kind of painful, Celsic, but within a couple of minutes, you have, the finger is fully attached and you feel like back to normal. Any detriments that you had before are now gone, so you are back to normal. And she says, this is an example of Tyr's healing, in case Photis and his devotees ever wish to take notes.
I'm taking notes. Thank you.
And then they say, you have been healed in the light of Tyr, his justice and his mercy. Will the maimed god need to heal anyone else of their injuries?
No, thank you, we're fine.
Not for 250 gold. No, I'm good.
Can
we get a Groupon? Like, yeah.
To be fair, that's literally what I would have said. No, not for that.
Not at these prices. Okay. So, all right.
People making a month.
Yeah. Okay. So you all sort of nod and say, very well. Then I wish you Tyr's blessings. May the maimed god hold you in his mercy, and may all of your flaws and misunderstandings, and sort of looks like just vaguely over you, Greta, be clarified. And she says, and then kind of turns away after a short perfunctory nod and kind of walks towards the back.
Well, I think we're done here. Let's leave.
Yep. I'm out.
Yep. Follow the Celsic stick blur. Well, that was awkward.
All right.
Yeah, but now you can see, like, what I said before about the other gods making photos look good. That's how it works.
You have a point there, Greta.
Yep.
Okay. So
sometimes it's the best just to smile, keep your peace, and let them do their stuff.
I mean, he doesn't require you to chop bits off.
After you say that, Urash just has a look on his face to say, I'm certain that's an insult. I'm sure that's not a compliment. Okay.
I'm just positive. Yeah, exactly.
Positive there's a backhanded compliment somewhere.
That's funny.
3 years after the party disbands. Wait!
Son of a... Exactly. Oh, man.
And, he's like sat there reading a book. He's like, God damn it. That's what...
Oh, man. Well, this is a good moment to pause for just a second and welcome everybody in. We've got good turnout today. Welcome everybody. I hope you are
Hello,
enjoying.
everybody.
I hope you are enjoying as much as I am a really fun D&D group. I really enjoy playing with all of my players, but I really have fun with this group too. And this, of course, is Pyron Jade, Darksaber 2K, Screaming Joypad, also known as Mike, and of course Tasty Chai, playing as the party, which is trying to find out the secret behind Storm King's Thunder. If you like what you see in here, please make sure to follow GOG. Please make sure to sub to GOG. And please check out all of our individual channels because 3 of us still actively stream. And one of us, Mike, does have videos and is going to I think, do more video editing, if I'm not mistaken, in the future and stuff. So you should definitely be checking out all that stuff because that would be awesome. And I will give them a chance to talk more about themselves at the end. But for right now, let us get back into it. And welcome to everyone that is here. So so it's right now about midday, just so you guys know, maybe a little bit past that, possibly 1 o'clock or so. So the question is, what would you folks like to do? It's still kind of the height of the festival. You obviously have various quests and things that you were given to do, stuff that you have out there that you need to do, but you really are going to have to make the decision how you want to do it. You got the teleportation circles obviously, and you still have another probably week or so-ish before you need to get to Waterdeep, so you have to decide all of that together.
Weren't we supposed to be meeting with the Harpers here with the view to getting membership properly finalized?
No.
Well,
that not
possibly, but you had remember that you had already met one of the Harpers who was in control of the teleportation circle.
Yeah.
So, but you could do that if you wish. You're kind of provisional members at the moment, but they have to sort of see how you're doing. They give you kind of a trial membership, essentially. So, not enough time has passed, I would say, for that.
Right.
Although you've certainly tried to make an impression while a Neverwinter so far. But,
I think next we wanted to go to the House of Knowledge and have rough magical eggs checked out.
And I have a couple of things I could do with trying to sell as well.
Okay. Let's see. Well, you have time for both of those. The House of Knowledge, you don't know a lot about. It is pretty close by. However, if you want to try to sell stuff, the festival is at its height right now. You might want to do it now as opposed to... I mean, you don't want the stuff to close. You still have a few hours before it does, but, it's up to you.
Yeah, liquidate some assets to make up for the outrageous lightness in my money pouch right now.
Exactly. All right. So, do you guys want to do that? You could also, of course, split the party. That always goes well. You could do that, too. It's up to you.
Well, we've done my thing first, so I'll let everyone else get theirs in before we do.
Urash had some needs, so I think we're gonna do that first.
Yeah, I could do with going to the House of Knowledge to see if someone can identify something for me.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, remind me what this thing is, by the way. I need to make sure I find my own notes. Well, what did...
My axe.
Oh, that's right.
Driffy's axe.
Yeah.
Was it the Axe of Blood or?
The axe of blood.
Axe of Blood, yes.
Definitely magical. Probably, definitely cursed.
I thought for a minute you said, I thought you said eggs, and I was really confused. I'm like, my magic eggs. I'm like, what the like, what did I say last month? I don't remember any magic eggs.
That's right, incomprehensible European accent.
Jesus God, magic eggs. And I was going to have to make it up. I'm going to be like, oh, these are Elminster's eggs. And,
Not just my eggs, my battle eggs.
My battle eggs, yeah. No, your battle axe. Gotcha. Okay, so when you depart the area, you go to the House of Knowledge. I need all 4 of you to make perception checks for me, please.
Oh, this is going to go well.
Okay.
And you're all dead.
18.
Okay. Gosh, with a 3. Really intrigued by his eggs.
Sky is blue. There is a lot of people.
River is like, I'm blind. No, River. There was this sequence. There was this thing where
a really River role as well. That's River's perception in general.
When I was at my friend's wedding, and my friend has a 13-month-old daughter, and we put a pair of sunglasses on her because she looked really cute in these pair of sunglasses. She just stared through the sunglasses for about 10 seconds, and then she burst into tears because she must have been like, my God, I'm blind. Like, she was like, we felt so bad. We took the sunglasses off or whatever. Anyway, that's a little bit what River's just like, you're looking around and then you're like, what is wrong? It's all dark. And then you realize that you're actually staring into like Urash's back. Like you're like right up on top of him. You're like, what the? So you don't see anything.
I had that happen one time in real life.
Really? It's darkness. What's up, Night Excessive? Okay, so Celsig and Greta. Both of you see, out of the corner of your eye almost, you think you see something or some movement in the crowd sort of slip back into the crowd. It's just like a quick sort of glance of someone that seems to be dressed in a dark green cloak. But they seem to, almost as if, like, the minute you emerged, this person sort of like zipped back into the crowd. Very nondescript, and it wasn't necessarily like, haha, I'm doing something terrible, but it was something that both of you independently noticed, and you're welcome to tell each other that independently if you like. This green cloaked figure that sort of ducked into the crowd seemed to be maybe looking up at the doors of the Temple of Tyr before, when you emerged, jumping into the crowd.
I look at Celtic. Did you see that? Did you piss off a ranger?
I was thinking that. Do the Rangers have a guild? Do I owe him dues?
I don't know. Okay. Urash, there was somebody watching us.
What?
There was somebody watching us, and they slipped back into the crowd.
River's like, what did you say? Like,
If only we had a way of parting the crowd between us and them.
Sorry?
You're a real thing, Blabard.
Isn't it? Every adventurer wants a portable bard.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out, I guess.
yeah, all you see is just a crowd, Rush. You don't see.
It was
There's a
wasn't
few
a hu-
people. We're a bunch of armed and armored people standing in front of a church with a nutcase chanting next to us. There's a few people staring at us.
So was it like?
I'm just like, no offense, Mr. Nutcase.
Was
He's
it,
like
was,
right next to us doing a sermon.
was the person like dwarven sized or human sized?
No,
or
looked to be
Urash
more,
sized?
well, not dwarven sized. Definitely a little bit taller. Whether it was human sized or, you couldn't tell if it was elf, human, anything else. It wasn't
Yeah, but-
enormous, so it wasn't like an ogre. But you would guess somewhere between some kind of normal human height, if you had to guess. But it could easily have been an elf or something like that.
Dark cloak and like medium height,
Green
human or
cloak
elf, most
specifically,
likely.
and yes.
Dark green cloak, medium height, like human or elf.
Right,
That's all we saw.
right. And then it was
I'll
gone.
keep an eye out. And as we are walking wherever we're walking, I am perceptively keeping an eye out.
I'll
Okay.
bring up the rear and specifically be looking out for them.
Okay, sounds good.
I tried to fold River in just in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, I just follow you.
Okay.
All right, as you are walking down the stairs and you begin to make your way, the priest who was giving the speech outside is just sort of silently watching as you go down to the stairs and then as you're walking. And so, my friends, we see the dangers of letting non-believers be part of the, larger fabric. Despite Tyr's mercy, someday he will take account of all of this. And then, like Blues Brothers, he just sort of recedes, into the distance as you guys are talking, as you guys are walking away. The House of Knowledge is fairly close to where you are, so it only takes about 5 minutes or so, even with the busy streets, to get to this place, which is known as the House of Knowledge. There are several guards with weapons standing on the outside of a rather large, at least 2, could even be 3-story building. It's very tall, and is very wide as well. It's almost sort of occupying its own space. There are 2 fairly large doors, double doors that are at the front of it, and as I say, there are guards kind of standing outside of it, and you can see there is a sign which literally says House of Knowledge, and on that's sort of one part of the sign, and then hanging below that, on another sort of smaller sign, you see something that shows like a book and a quill being written into the book. Thank you very, very much. Being written into it. This is some of the food that I had mentioned before and anticipated, which has now arrived. In case you're wondering, the festival has provided pesto pasta, kale salad, green beans, and salmon. So,
Oh, nice.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right.
Good choice.
Smell-o-vision chat. Just feel, be immersed in the. Yes. So anyway, so you see this large building, and there are again these 2 guards that are standing outside of these closed double doors.
Okay, I will need to know. I'm not in front, am I? I'm going to be kind of in the middle because I can't read or write, so I don't know if it says House of Knowledge. I'm just following where the.
Well, if River's following you and if Celsig's in back, that means it's either Greta leading or someone's got to be in front.
So Greta is in front.
Okay.
I'm leading and I can read.
Okay.
And
All right. Okay, so you can do that. So you are able to determine these, the images on the left and then the House of Knowledge on the right.
The door's shut.
Yes, shut at the moment.
Okay. Can I go up to one of the guards?
Sure. They are standing there. They kind of look at you, and you can see that they are dressed in fairly significant city finery. They have a halberd. You can see short swords at their belt. These guys mean business, obviously. Like, it's not kind of mercenary groups, but fairly significant people. And they say, yes, what do you wish at the House of Knowledge?
Sir, I was wondering if people in the House of Knowledge had the ability to identify items.
And he says, indeed they may, depending on the items in question. What items are you speaking of?
Well, I have, I'll kind of hold my arm up. I have this, and it's the leather bracelet around my arm.
Oh, right, the leather, which, you mean the leather bracelet that has the, yeah, right, which is not the
Yes.
Right. And he says, all right, like the sages within would need to tell you about that.
And I'll unhook my my axe from my back, and I'll not like wielding it, but I'll just like show them it. And I go, and this too.
And when he sees that, he sort of glances at the other guard, and they take a step backwards, and he says, if that's what I think it is, you might be in the wrong place, friend. He said, but...
Well, what do you think it is?
He says, danger is what I think. But you don't look as if you're going to be dangerous to the people within using it. It's more what it does to the person who has it. Here, the sages will need to...
Which is why I'm trying to find out what it is.
He says, yes, and he sort of hurriedly pulls one of these great iron rings on the doors, and the other guard grabs the other one, and it opens, and as it opens, River, you remember the experience of actually having seen during your nomadic travels a couple of places, especially natural places, that when you open them, there's a feeling of, you get this feeling of cold air. Not like crypt, like tomb, but just cold and almost musty, like there's age kind of emanating from it. That's what this feels like. There's this sort of wave of cold air that rushes over you. You almost can smell dust and paper. And you would maybe be made a little bit hungry by this, but given the food you just had, not so much. So you were able to concentrate. So you just sort of smell this, and all of you can kind of see within. There is what seems to be mostly darkness, actually. You don't actually see anything. It's just what you hear and feel with that rush of air and then the air on your skin. And the guards say, go straight forward. The sages will attend to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll go straight forward. I assume people are following me.
Yep.
Okay. As the four of you enter, the doors like close behind you. And then there is one moment, and then you see this one light flash on. It seems to be some kind of a lantern. And then lanterns begin to light up everywhere, and suddenly the room is ablaze in magical light, and you see that you are standing in the middle, thank you for the follow, Valestro, of this enormous library, a room that has probably thousands of books that are lifted on these shelves that go up the walls and around you. And the walls are actually curved up to almost like a dome at the top. And so obviously the shelves are raked appropriately so that the books aren't tilted over. The shelves just kind of rake forward, but and so you can just sort of see those things. But there doesn't seem to be like any ladders or anything like that that sort of leads up to them. They're just, building with a bunch of books around the outside, and they're just up there. And on the ground in front of you, you see one person walking forward to meet you. The room seems to be empty from here, although you can't see the back end of it. And it is a man who is dressed in purple robes and is entirely bald, you can see that he has some kind of, he sees he has a beard, but his eyes seem to be odd. You can't quite place why, but there's something odd about his eyes. And as he comes up to you, he sort of sees you and stops in front of you and bows low. And not really looking at any of you specifically, he says, "Welcome, welcome, my friends, to the House of Knowledge. What do you seek? We will provide what we can to enlighten your way."
Hello. We are travelers, adventurers. We picked up some items on our travels during conflict, and I'd like to know if they are magical, and if so, what they do.
He says, "Certainly. I would be most happy to help you. There is, of course, a slight fee for the service of identification in the way you describe."
Okay, how much is it?
He says, "Under normal circumstances, we would charge more, but because of the festival, we are able to provide our identification services for a mere 125 gold pieces per item."
Goodness me.
Okay.
And by the way, Urash, make a perception check for me, please, when he does that.
Okay. This may not go well. This did
Okay.
18. Wow. Much better.
You notice, Urash, he's looking, but he's not looking right at you. He seems to be looking a little past you somehow.
I'm kind of like ducking my head a bit, like I'm trying to.
He's
get
not
his-
reacting.
Yeah, I look like I'm trying to catch his gaze. Are you? I can't seem to see your eyes straight on. Are you okay?
He says, "What do you mean? Oh, perhaps you refer to the fact that I lack your traditional sight. Yes, I am blind, but of course I have been given even greater enlightenment internally. You see so many things with sight, and so few with your other senses. But I have been gifted by this house with the ability to maneuver and function within it. I can see without my eyes, my friend."
Oh, I see.
Do you see with your nose? It smells like books in here.
He says, "Many times I do, O silver dragonborn, if I'm not mistaken."
Ah, you seem nice.
He says, "I attempt to be." He
Is,
says, so go ahead, Greta.
Is there anything else we can offer in exchange for identification? Something that might waive the fee?
He says,
We have pins. We've done a favor for the city. I don't know if that helps.
he says, "Unfortunately, favors for the city must be left with the city. The House of Knowledge functions somewhat independently. The city
Why are you
does
hiding the cat?
What?
Why are you hiding the cat?
Where are you hiding the cat? Yeah, exactly.
He wants to go on the windowsill, and the blind is in his way, so he'll constantly scratch at the blind.
I can't even explain how confused I was. I'm like, when did I bring up a cat? At what point? I was gonna go with it. I would have rolled with it. All
Sorry,
right.
I got distracted.
Where are you hiding
Where
the
were
cat?
you hiding the cat? I was being blind at the moment you said that. All right, Pyron, and I'm like, where am I hiding the cat? Jesus.
We're not prepared.
This is like a pony all over
I'd
again.
be like,
It's past midnight. I'm sorry. I'm not functioning well.
oh god.
Fine, it's fine. No, he's still there. He's just looking out. He's looking out.
Hello, kitty cat. Anyway,
Okay.
yes. So
Yeah. Sorry. I'm really sorry.
that's okay. So he says, "Unfortunately, the city is paid by itself. The city does provide us some guards, of course, but that is because we do services for its rulers. We are one of the great sources of knowledge in the northern Sword Coast, you realize. We have much of the information of Faerun right here, and we must guard it jealously. Knowledge is sometimes the most fleeting of commodities.
What do you use your money for?
Normally for maintenance and upkeep, and also, of course, the acquisition of other things. If you were to bring us lore and information, we would be happy to do an exchange. Nothing is more valuable than information. But it must be useful information. If I tell you how many times it's been explained to me how expensive one of the ales is during the festival, I probably would have my sight back by now."
Okay.
So we can't just go get him food.
No, I don't think that'll work. It's okay. So
Also, I
have-
love veggie burger. No.
How did you have like no money? Because we've had several rewards and you haven't been big spenders.
No. I do have money.
Oh.
I just had plans for it. Is all.
No, fair enough. I was just curious.
No, that's cool. So I've got 2 items myself. I don't know about my colleagues. One doesn't really bother me. It's this, and I'll hold up the wrist with the leather bracelet on it. That doesn't really bother me. I can probably find out what that does at a later date. The one I am concerned about is this, and I will take my axe off my back and I will kind of hold it in my hands.
So when he does this, you all notice that there is a perceptible dimming of the lanterns. Like all the lights in the room dim slightly.
Definitely cursed.
And he sort of takes a deep breath inward, and he says, and he kind of holds his hand up, not to touch the blade, but sort of like near it, and says, "Oh, my friend, it has been some time since I have felt something like that. I would ask you to describe it to me, but..." And he sort of then looks off again, his strange gaze kind of staring off, and says, "Is that an axe that you hold?"
It is. It's an axe that I took off of a foe. She was a frost giant. The axe nearly claimed my life. Actually, I'm pretty certain it did claim my life. If you have time, I'd be willing to share the story with you.
He says, I would perhaps be willing to reduce our identification costs for this story.
I'd tell you all about the encounter, the fight, what I saw, how it happened. I'm happy if my colleagues don't want to sit around and hear our history, then they can go and do something else while we sit and talk.
He says, well, while you're telling me this story, though I must tell you that conflict does not interest me nearly as much as knowledge. Any information about the things you saw, of course, would be of interest to me. But in the meantime, I might ask if the others would be willing to pay a very small fee. They're welcome to browse our archives. For simply 1 gold piece each, you can browse these books.
Okay, I take that.
Okay.
I'm going to excuse myself and keep an eye out at the front door for that guy we spotted earlier.
Okay.
Or person.
River, what about you?
I'm probably gonna go hang out with Celsic. I don't care about books; they're not food.
Okay. That is true. All right. So you go out with Celsig. Greta, he takes your gold and he says, "Thank you. If you'll just follow me, please." And he turns and he walks around and he walks away. And presumably both you and Urash follow.
Yeah.
And he brings you to what looks like a sort of circular. It looks just like a circle in the floor. And there are 2 rails, like on either side of the circle. And he says, "If you'll just stand there and grasp the rail, please."
Okay.
Okay,
Well, he's actually saying that to Greta, not to you.
Oh, right. Okay. Got
I
it.
grasp the rail.
Okay, he says, "Now, whatever you wish to do, you simply think about the area you'd like to explore, and this will take it to you. Unfortunately, I cannot offer you more specific guidance without more money, but you should have an enjoyable time of browsing."
Okay. Urash, if you need me, you ask for me, okay?
Thank you. I will.
Okay.
All right,
and
what
off I go.
do you think about Greta? Like
The
what?
Ring of Winter.
Okay, so when you do that,
Good choice.
the platform itself suddenly shivers and suddenly rises into the air, and you're grasping the rail and it begins to rotate, not spinning like super fast, but just rotates slightly, and then you see it rising far into the air, and now you suddenly realize why it is that there's no ladders or anything else. This thing obviously is a levitation platform which allows you to travel to various places within the library, and as you head towards the back of the room, which is where it's taking you, you can actually see a couple of other people on raised platforms. One of them is actually sort of sitting cross-legged with a couple of books around them as they're kind of looking at things, and another person is reaching up. Again, you're way above the floor as you're in this platform.
Okay.
And so you fly up and over to an area, and then you see the area that you're going to, and you begin to see a bunch of these R's, like ring of, like there's a couple things like rock and stuff like that, and then you begin to see things and things like not that like
famous rings of the Sword Coast.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to say it's you see a couple of RAs and REs first, and then you get to rings, and you see things like ring of ring of fire, ring of power, ring of evil, ring of curses, whatever. Like goes through a whole bunch of things, and then finally stops at a book that describes giants, rings, and winter. And the platform sort of is hovering right in front of this book.
Okay, I'm occupied while Urash is doing his thing, I guess.
Okay, so you're going to take out the book. We'll come back to you. Urash, so meanwhile, the person says, if you'll follow me, please.
Mm.
And by the way, his name is Brother Cagliostros, he tells you.
Thank you. I was going to ask that in a second.
And so Brother Cagliostros brings you over. He walks at a very sort of steady, stately pace, like not a lot of, running around or anything, but he seems to, he's, although the floor does not have a lot of obstacles, he seems to go unerringly towards, where he wants to go. And it's a large room, as I said. And finally, you find yourself following him sort of basically right next to one of the sets of books. And as you get close to the books, you see that there's actually a couple of tables and chairs there. And there are a few people, actually, and there's an odd thing, Urash, because you see people at the tables, and it looks like one of them is talking to perhaps another brother. He's dressed like Brother Cagliostros is, but you can't hear them at all. You don't hear whispering. You don't hear, like, the chairs moving. You just hear silence. Nothing from them, even though they're talking very clearly. And,
how is it so quiet in here?
And Brother Cagliostros smiles and he says, "We find that the most knowledgeable conversations come from silent reflection. Thus, we make sure to keep any conversations to a minimum." And he gestures to the chair, one of the two chairs at this empty table. He sits down at the other.
Okay, I attempt to be quiet, which is probably not very quiet. And I'll put the axe, lay on the axe on the table, and sit at the chair.
Okay, so you sit down. He sits down. The minute you sit down, it feels very much. If you've ever had the experience of diving into water, or another example might be walking into, let's say, putting on headphones. Another good example, especially like noise canceling headphones. You kind of step as you sit down. You hear. Whoop, and it's as if every sound out behind you, he said, as he quickly rushed to make sure that this works, stops. And suddenly it's just silence. And suddenly you hear it's as if there's, nothing outside of you. And Brother Cagliostros, who's sat down opposite you, looks up at you and smiles, or well, I should say looks up sort of past you, basically, but smiles and says, "Here we can speak without being disturbed." And it sounds like you're right next to him, like in a closet, basically. Like there's no sound outside at all. He says,
I look a bit confused, and I kind of I pick and scratch at one of my ears a little bit, like I can't hear properly, but that's pretty much all I do.
And he sort of, and he kind of nods, and he says, he nods and he says, "Yes, it can be, I imagine, a bit troubling or confusing. Well, I'm interested about this battle that you had. This giant that you say had this axe that you carry. What kind of giant was she? From the frozen north? From the fiery mountains?"
She was a frost giant. Her name was Drufi, and she led a charge against Bryn Shander that we were staying in. We defended the city, and I am a follower of Tempest, so battles are my legacy. So when the fighting stopped and she broke off, I pursued her, and we were engaged in one-on-one combat. It's one of the few times I've ever felt my life in grave danger in battle. And as you can see, and I'll motion to the myriad of scars up and down my body, I've been in my fair share. We fought. The fight was glorious. I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details. I remember the Wizard's Tower was involved. I remember I was hit really hard with something, and then my friends were bringing me back, essentially bringing me back to life in the House of Healing. I acquired the axe during that time. One of my compatriots, one of my clan, got the axe for me because they thought I would want it, which is what I did. Not long after that, I asked to be taken back to the site so that I could honor my fallen enemy, give her a proper burial. Her body was gone, unfortunately, but I was left with this axe, and I'm concerned that somebody mentioned it. Just stepping out of character, just 1 second.
Yes.
How do I know it's called the Axe of Blood?
I believe I was trying to remember that also, actually, because it happened a while back.
So I could just say someone, because Urash has taken a few blows to the head since then. I could just say somebody mentioned it was called the Axe of Blood. Someone recognized it, I think.
Correct. Yeah. And there've been a few people. I mean, not everybody, but there's a few people that have that sort of, connection, basically.
I think it was the healer at the House of Healing where we left Urash.
Was it? Right.
Oh, yeah, that might be right. And they were very concerned about it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So the kind of thing I would say would be, I understand it's got a history. These kind of weapons in the hands of these kind of creatures. I've never handled a magical weapon before, but this one changes me slightly when I'm in battle, and I'm not sure how. I just feel different. I feel not quite myself. And traveling with a magic user and people who can cast spells and being involved with magic users recently, I just want to know if it is magical and if I'm in any danger.
He says, it is indeed magical. And he says, as for whether it's dangerous, he says, may I be allowed to touch it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So he holds out his hand, and as his hand gets close to the axe, you can see that his hand almost trembles a little bit, as if with sort of power or something like that. And he kind of pushes it close, and there is a moment, and then his hand kind of closes all at once, and he pulls it back, and he sighs, and he says, yes, I have heard of something of this kind of weapon, but I was not sure if we would see something of its like again. Here, I think you should come with me. And he stands and steps up from the table and then walks over to another one of those circular platforms.
Okay, I will take the axe and I will follow him.
Okay. And again, when you walk out of the sound, it's like, and all of a sudden there's sound again. I mean,
again,
a little sound. Yeah, exactly.
Ring my ears a little bit. I'm like, that sounds really weird.
Exactly. So when you get onto the platform and hold the rails, he says you should hold on tight as well.
Okay.
It pulls up basically the platform, and it goes off to another spot, not the spot where Greta is. And there's different things that you can see, different sort of books as you pass by, fantastic creatures. Some things you mentioned, many of them are in titles that are completely indiscernible. You have no idea what the hell they say. And then you get to one section where there's one large book, and on the front of the book is a skull. And as he sort of grabs the book from in front of it and holds it, he says, this, I think, is what we desire. And he puts his hand on the rail and puts the book underneath his other arm, and the thing drops back down.
Whilst we're traveling down,
yes.
Can I ask him, what is that book?
He says, this is a book of wondrous items with evil histories, though. If you wish to know, it is Book of Wonders and Curses, one of our most often used books.
Okay.
And then he gets down to the bottom, and sort of the platform settles back into its little groove in the floor. He gets off, goes back to the table, assuming you follow him. And then when he's there, he's sitting down again. You get that whoop as the sound goes away, and he opens the. What is going on? And he opens the book.
Weird.
He opens the book, and you swear, you're not sure, you blink once, Urash, but you swear that he opens the book cover, but then the pages seem to flip by themselves, just until it lands at the right spot. and he points at it, and you see what looks like a great barbarian. Not orc, though, probably human barbarian, if you had to guess, who is standing upon what looks like a mound of bodies. And he's holding this, this with two hands, this weapon with this what looks like an axe, a blade which seems to be made of some kind of combination, maybe of obsidian or some other kind of metal, because it's glowing both black and red, alternating. Black, red, black, red, black, red, black, red. And the Brother Cagliostro says, "This, I think, is the axe that you possess. It is known in some more intellectual circles as an axe of a berserker. But more often, this axe is known as the axe of blood. It has been owned by many throughout its time. It is an enormously powerful weapon. It gives you both strength and accuracy. Moreover, you will be stronger while wielding it. I don't just mean your ability to attack, but to defend. You will have more health. You will be able to run faster, jump higher, and last for longer before you exhausted collapse in the midst of battle. However, there are consequences."
That does explain, I've used this in battle a couple of times now, and that does explain how I felt. I haven't tired as easily. I feel like I've been truer with my attacks. There was a creature that attacked me that I attacked with a seemingly normal attack, and I almost made it explode. It was quite something. I mean, I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I kind of felt like that's what happened.
He says, "You may have loved it, my friend, and it is indeed powerful, but you may have put your own friends in danger while wielding it. You see, the axe of blood does not care whether it sucks the blood of friend or enemy. Whoever it is near is in danger. Those who wield the axe, it is said, will at some point, sooner or later, lose their will, and for a time the axe will take control. The wielder will go berserk, will attack friend, enemy, anything around it, regardless of whether it is his target or something friendly to him. The berserk state will last until all have cleared the area around him, at which point his will be his own. The problem is that in the midst of this, your berserk rage will cause you to attack and potentially destroy anything. You will have no control over it. It will be as if you had been asleep the entire time. When you wake up from it, you may well be accused of a crime you did not willingly or knowingly commit. Several stories remain," and he kind of flicks through. "Here, a king who killed his own son, not seeing him in the midst of battle. Or here," and he flicks over, "a mother picking up an axe after the loss of her warrior son, and growing berserk, and finally turning the axe upon her own army until they were forced to shoot her to save themselves. And here," and he flips through, and he shows you a couple more stories like this, going through it, and he says, "The worst problem for you, my friend, is you will now no longer wish to get rid of it. If you tempt to put it down or remove it, you will be incapable of fighting the same way you did before. You will become weaker. You will become, in the end, not much of a fighter at all, unless that curse may be broken. This axe is called the axe of blood, because all those die in blood, their own or someone else's. This is a deadly item to friend and enemy."
I'm just looking
Well, crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the axe, and I'm looking at the book. Is there any way to remove the curse?
And he flips the page, and on the back of the page, he sees this one moment where he sees this, you see this one picture, and there's no lines under it, no text, just a picture. And it's a picture of one person holding the axe and then holding a hand out to what looks like maybe a little boy or a little girl, a little child. It's not clear. And he says, Many scholars have tried to interpret what this last picture means. The person who was composing knowledge of this particular item died before it could be completed. Our thoughts now is that it represents some form of sacrifice, that if you are willing to sacrifice yourself, or if someone is willing to sacrifice for you, the curse may be broken. But what that sacrifice is, well, we cannot say. It is possible to try to strengthen yourself against the effects of the axe, to make yourself and your will stronger. But there is always a chance, every time you wield it, that you will lose your will until you can break that curse.
Okay, thank you. I obviously owe you something for this service.
He says, he puts up a hand, he says, actually, when someone faces what you face, I think payment enough is the story you have told. I would not take money from one afflicted with this. I would not do something to someone who deserves my charity and pity, not their money.
So this bracelet.
He's like, oh, that's a +1 bracelet of accuracy. No, he doesn't say that. He's like, that's fine. It's actually okay. So he actually he says, looking at the bracelet, he says, yes. Well, that I might actually have to charge for.
Interestingly, I will actually hand in the bracelet, and I'll go. Well, obviously, if I can hand in the bracelet, depending if that's fucking cursed
Nope.
as well.
Nope, you take it off, no problem.
Bracelet, no, cut your head off.
I will. Yeah, I will hand in the bracelet. I'll go. Any more information you can give to a cursed barbarian?
He says, and he looks at the bracelet and he says, "I am afraid I cannot do this for free, though. We do have some expenses. Perhaps 50 gold would do."
That's fine. I'll count out like 55 or something like that because I'm not good with numbers. I'll just hand it.
Okay, you actually hand him 550. Like,
yeah.
Okay. This looks
Like
about
this,
right.
This Celtic always says this is 50 gold.
It's just a pinch of gold. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So he's looking at the inscription around the band, and he says, yes, I thought I might be able to ascertain this for you. I am pleased to tell you that this item is not cursed in the way the previous one is.
In the way the previous one is.
This actually has two functions. It is called the bracelet. Oh, sorry. I said that and then literally I heard the GOG alert and it said the bracelet and it went bring and I'm like, oh, Jesus. It's the bracelet of stuff.
Bracelet of notifications.
This is known more popularly. The official term is the bracelet of competence, but more popularly it is known as the bracelet of good things. It gives you ability bonuses, essentially 2 of them. One of these, and he kind of like squints and he looks around the outside. Yes, this will give you a bonus to, let's see, if you are, for example, poisoned or diseased, it would give you a benefit to that. Quick note out of character, the mechanical point of this is you get a +1 to Constitution saving throws. Not checks, but saving throws. He said,
I'll confirm all that with you afterwards as
that's
well.
fine, yeah. But remind me that I told you that because I'm going to need to go back to this page later. But yeah, +1 Constitution saving throws. He says, and then on this, he says, this will allow you to, if necessary, inflict extra damage. You can, if you wish, use this to create more damage to your enemies. Quick note out of character, when you use it mechanically, you can actually add a 6-sided die of damage when you choose to use this bracelet. However, he says, the bracelet does not last forever. All good things must come to an end, you know. Every time you use an attack and get this benefit, the chances that the bracelet will fall off or be destroyed become greater. Now, quick out-of-character note. Mechanically, what this means is that essentially you can do, as I said, an extra 6 points of damage. You can do that a grand total of 5 times. Okay,
so 5 charges.
5 times. On the 5th time, the bracelet will end. So it just basically goes dark, falls off your wrist, and stops working, and you don't get the benefit of the Constitution saving throw. Now,
Yeah.
one last thing before you say anything else.
Yeah, go for it.
The last point of the last charge will actually do 3 times that amount. So the last charge will do 3d6 extra of damage. And then, as I said, it will break. So 1d6, 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 and then the last one is 3d6, and then it breaks. All during that time, you can do the Constitution saving throws without using any charges at all. That just stays on your wrist. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
And you cannot combine them other than that last one that I mentioned. So you can't be like, all right, 20d6 or whatever it is. Like, you can't do that. All right. It's just that.
I'm going to use them all at once.
Yeah, quick now, zap, you know.
That
Okay.
would be nice.
Okay.
And he says, this, I'm happy to inform you, is not cursed. You may remove it as you will.
Okay, so it's not doesn't happen to be the bracer of curse breaking by any chance. That's unfortunate.
Sadly, it is not the bracer of the axe of blood removal, no.
No, that's unfortunate. You don't know if there's any items like that help remove curses.
He says, oh, there are certainly many powerful artifacts in the world, but unfortunately their secrets are kept very hidden, or they are guarded by rather nasty creatures. I believe that there are several red dragons, for example, that guard several treasures. All you would need to do is eliminate both of those red dragons at once. Perhaps you could manage that.
I'll shelve that one. But it's good to know.
Have you any other questions for me?
No, other than to impart thanks. Such as it is, at least now I know what trouble I'm in. Yeah, thank you.
He says, I wish you the best of luck, and I should tell you, the fact that this axe was being wielded by a giant attacking Bryn Shander is troubling to me, for you must know that this axe almost never finds its way to someone's hands by accident. Something wanted the giant, and then you, to have it.
Okay.
Okay, so he gets up. Now, meanwhile, Celsic
Yep.
and River, what are you doing? And then I'm going to go back to Greta. You guys are standing at the door. You've been kind of keeping an eye out, Celsic, I believe.
Yeah, trying to see if we can spy that person that we saw outside the temple.
Okay. I'm going to ask both of you to make perception checks. River, I should point out, by the way, you have never been, I should have mentioned this before, you were so enamored with the food, I was spending time on that, but you've never been in a place with this many people at once, and there is a bewildering array of elves, dwarves, orcs, humans, every kind of combination, and gnomes, and even a couple of dark elves you see, and several dragonborn. And you see a few of the dragonborn. There's one that's gold that passes, one that's red, and several of them kind of look up at you curiously, and then sort of look at each other because you're just standing up there on this, the steps of this hall of knowledge, house of knowledge, kind of looking out. And you see as you kind of pass through the crowd, but you're just like, there's a lot of people, like way more than ever. How do you feel about that?
Overwhelmed, like excited, really excited, but unsure. Like, oh my gosh, there are people who look just like me, and then I'm like, but what are they doing?
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of, and the noises and the, there's a lot of, a lot of noise basically out here. So Celsic, as you're looking around, you don't see anything that seems obvious. You see a lot of people in cloaks, a lot of people wearing armor, a lot of people, but you don't see anything specific, and certainly no one that looked like they were trying to duck into the crowd. There is a little bit of a space basically in front of the stairs leading out of the House of Knowledge, but that's not, that's just because people stay away from the doors or whatever. But there's people walking by, but you don't see anything else as you're kind of looking about.
Okay.
All right, let me jump back into Greta. Greta, as you are reading about this, reading more details, you begin to read more details about this thing called the Ring, and you're finding sort of details about the Ring of Winter. Now, interestingly, the Ring of Winter, as it's described here, is a powerful artifact, and the way it's described, and there's actually a picture of it. Let me see if I can, I'm actually going to pull up a picture to show you guys on screen.
My browser just crashed. I won't be able to see it.
Oh no.
Oh, is it? Oh, gee, I don't know how to...
Okay, I think it's recovering, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, now you should be able to see this picture. You can actually see it there. So the Ring of Winter is, as it's described, is this kind of featureless band. It's a gold band that is constantly
pretty.
covered in a layer of frost that never fully melts. And it's described as being incredibly cold, and that could actually numb the hand of its wearer. And it has, as you read it, numerous powers. It makes it impossible, for one thing, for the wearer to be detected through divination magic. So people can't find where the wearer is. And maybe that explains a little bit about why Artis Cimber has been able to stay as under the radar as he has been. It renders its wearer immune to cold, and it halted aging. It's alleged to stop aging completely. You just don't age when you wear the ring. However, this is significant. Guess what? You might have heard, just if you've heard of a ring like this before, it also continually attempts to take control of its wearer, trying to compel them to cause harm and destruction. So go the legends, although there are other conflicting stories in the entry you read about the fact that some have been able to master it and gain all of its benefits but none of its drawbacks. So go the stories, but again, those may also be propaganda. It's sort of hard to say. But the main point about this is that it has had many, many masters, many owners over the years, and it has several nicknames. But the nickname that it is known of by frost giants is the ice that never melts.
Okay. Does it say where it comes from?
Originally, I'm going to get rid of that image for a minute. It is originally said that the ring may have been created by something that was evil, perhaps by demons or devils. It was obviously an evil ring. I think that's pretty obvious.
Okay.
It was an evil ring that was created, and that it was only able to be fully controlled and accessed by an evil being that did not fall under control of the ring. It was suggested sometimes that it was forged by one of the heads of Tiamat, who breathed on it with her frost dragon head and thus gave it the power that it possesses. But again, this is only legend. All sort of the people of the Sword Coast know is that it was sometime in the 1360s or 1370s that the ring began to appear and show up with various people. And at various times, the Zentarim have wanted to have it. You guys have had run-ins with them before. At other times, obviously, demons and devils. A Rakshasa supposedly owned it for a time. So it's one of those things that has never been kept by only one person, but sort of made its way from place to place once it made its appearance.
So makes owner undetectable, makes owner, immortal in the sense of they don't age.
Right.
And then tries to take the owner over and have the owner do what?
Harm and destruction.
Harm and destruction.
And it's no accident that typically harm and destruction follows in the wake of one who owns the ring.
Okay.
So on no account is Urash to touch this thing.
So, what was it? What wanted the ring for? No, it was the frost giants want the ring. That's why we want the ring, right?
That's correct.
That was it.
That was your lead to try to figure out as to what's going on with the giants, theoretically. Yep.
Okay. Well,
Also, you have no idea, and I'm sorry, just one quick thing. You have no idea whether that has anything to do with why the giants are doing whatever, but it was the lead that you had, and then as you went out, you ran into all these other things that happened in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I will memorize this stuff, and then I will look. Does this thing allow me to look for another book, or is it just, 1 coin per book?
It's, no, it looks like you could probably browse for other stuff. It's just a time thing, mostly. There was a suggestion to give the ring to the axe-wielding barbarian. That would go great. Or throw it into Mount Doom. Yes, one of those two things.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Steel Rose.
So then I will have a quick look if maybe I can find out something about the disappearance of the King of the Giants, because that seems to be a problem that we're trying to fix. So maybe this library knows something. Which would be kind of depressing, but still.
So you put the book back, the book you were looking at, and then when you hold the rail and you think about it, the platform doesn't actually move anywhere. It just sort of stays in one place. And it may be that this is a house that has sort of like not totally ancient, but certainly old knowledge. And it may be that there is no knowledge available, or that it's too new. This event is too new for it to be ending up in the House of Knowledge. So it doesn't go anywhere.
Or I've used up my coin or something.
Yes, or possibly you've run out of your little arcade machine.
Click.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll try to think of something else that might help us. I'm going to think of Diego Maradona just to see if he is what he seems.
Okay, so as you say that, you think about it, and the platform starts to move and shift, and you see it sort of circling a little bit, rotating, and then goes over, and then it stops in front of what looks like a book of some kind. But you're sort of looking, but the book seems incomprehensible. Like the book is just sort of this. It's this book that looks like it says something about foodstuffs of the northern Sword Coast. Doesn't seem to have anything whatsoever to do with it. And so you're sort of looking at it confused, and then you say, "Well, fancy seeing you here." And you look over to see on a platform next to you Diego Maradona, who's sort of leaning back against the rail with a big smile, and he's holding a book in his hand, and he says, "Fancy finding you. You find interest perhaps in music and foodstuffs, my dear."
Maybe. I have to go.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm definitely rattled, and I'm like, what is he doing here?
He says, so he puts his hand, he says, "I understand, my dear. You are here and suddenly confronted by the great Diego Maradona. Most people would be confused, surprised, shocked. Just to let you know, I'm used to this reaction. It is perfectly fine. Moreover, although I am still very sad about the possibilities of us not traveling together, I am most grateful that you have come to find me."
No, my friends are waiting downstairs, and fire in the library is really bad. I need to go.
Okay. So you drop, like the platform just goes low. Yeah. And he's like,
exit.
Yeah, right. And he's sort of like, "Very well, enjoy your stay and never return." Then you hear this like the sound, and then there's this hush, and you see one of the brothers is going to a platform and sort of like lifting up, clearly going to presumably scold the person who just made that loud sound inside the House of Knowledge.
If I still see Urash talking with the brother, I'll go and meet up with Celsik and.
I think at this point, both of you are about at the same time as you're landing. Urash, looking rather pensive, is sort of walking away from the table, so you can actually meet up with him and then head on if you like. Hello, Kilgore.
So I slap Urash on the back, like, "You're alright, big guy."
Yeah, I'm alright. Just got a lot to think about.
Okay, you found out what you wanted to know?
Yeah. I've found out more information. I'll tell you about it. When everyone's together.
Yeah. I think we should just. I'll also tell you what I found out. I think we should go back to our room.
Yeah, sounds good.
See if Celsik and River still. That guy, the bard, Diego Maradona, he's here.
What?
He's
How?
here in the library.
Is that what that noise was a few minutes ago?
Yeah, of course.
How did he get in here?
Yeah, I guess he paid 1 gold, and he was looking at books in the food section.
So he's following us. Could that be the person you were following us earlier?
Did he? Was he wearing like a green cloak or something?
The guy. I'm sorry, the guy in the. I thought we were talking about
Maradona.
Diego Maradona was not wearing a green cloak. No.
Okay. I didn't know he was not having a green cloak with him, but he might have left it somewhere. I don't know. Maybe they have the code rack over here. I don't know. So, well, let's meet up with Celsik and River. Maybe they have found something.
As you guys exit, you actually see Celsik and River standing right on the stairs. Kind of River's sort of looking around in amazement. Celsik is peering around, but doesn't seem to be looking at anything in particular.
Hi there, we're done.
Hi.
Hi.
Whoa!
I'm uncharacteristically quiet, and I just walk past, hardly stopping. I was like, right, let's go.
One quick question: did you guys hear any loot noises?
Actually, yeah, that's a really good question. You guys have been stood here the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Did that wily little bard, Diego Maradona, come past you?
No, I would have eaten him.
I'm just going to assume no one came past us while I was outside, or at least no one notable.
Can I ask the same question of one of the guards? You know, the guard I spoke to originally.
Sure. And the guards sort of shrug and say, no, they haven't seen anyone.
The guard, the bard, Diego Maradona, he was inside the library.
And
Yeah, no, I believe
Has
you.
the guard
I
seen the
believe you.
bard?
I'm telling Celsic, he doesn't know.
Yeah, all right.
What?
Yes.
And you didn't bring him with you?
What? Why would I?
Why would you not?
There is something
Because-
very strange about that little man.
Yeah, he is annoying. He is loud. He's suspicious. No, I'm not bringing him with
Yeah,
us.
we definitely don't want someone like that in the party.
Yeah.
Yeah, not another one.
Come on, River.
Hey, River's not that bad.
all right.
River is wonderful. I like River.
As the four of you disappear into the crowd, there is a one moment where you see the doors, the two double doors open. This is a little cutscene. Double doors open, and strolling out, looking very pleased with himself and adjusting his sort of sleeves, is Diego Maradona. He looks around, then looks into the crowd, catches someone's eye, winks, and then goes in the opposite direction. And it is there where we will leave it, I think, for this session. This was a lot of fun, guys. Really a lot of fun. It was, obviously there was no combat here. I didn't suspect there was going to be any of that.
It was
but there
fun for
a lot
you. I'm cursed.
that was fun. But it's such an
I feel
interesting curse.
It's an interesting curse that might help kill my friend.
Your curses are interesting.
In the same way
high
that you
quality-
thought the plague was interesting to doctors at the time.
It was
It's a
fascinating.
high quality curse.
It was, yeah, exactly. It was,
Yeah.
it was a top quality curse.
None of the budget crap.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting top shelf curses right now.
This is right. I don't give you any Walmart curses. These are
This would be
top
a 3-hour
level.
story in Witcher 3, this sort of curse.
These are right.
I'm
These are
giving you
god tier curses, are what these are.
boutique curses.
But anyway, I hope that everyone, you guys had as good time as I did. It was a pleasure for me, so I hope you guys enjoyed it too, and that chat enjoyed it as well. We will of course be back with more of this again, hopefully during ArvCon. We will see, where the party will have to figure out what they're doing before they leave Neverwinter, and then of course they've still got Waterdeep, and now they know more about the Ring of Winter too. So we'll see what happens with all that. I will start as usual down at the bottom of the column, working in reverse order. And Chai, there's a lot of food stuff happening. Not a lot of, no much combat yet, but it'll happen. I promise. There will be combat down the line. But you guys are just hanging out in cities. I mean, it is what it is. So, cities much safer than rural areas, just in case anyone's curious. That's completely accurate in real life. River, it was, Tasty Chai, it was a pleasure. Where will the fine people see you next?
I'm going to be streaming on my own channel, like in 20 minutes or so. After I have a break, I'm going to be playing Terra because I've been playing a lot of that because Korean MMOs apparently hold my attention.
Yeah, I have seen you've been doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll be over here on GOG again on Sunday, and I'm going to be finishing up Observer.
Nice. Good stuff. Definitely check out Chai's stuff. She is always fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it, and I will be speaking to you more in our session next month. Moving right on up the line, we have, of course, Screaming Joypad, also known as Mike. Mike, that awesome introduction. You deserve much kudos for the awesome introduction. So thank you. Oh, I mean, whatever, but still, it was cool.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
where will the fine people see you next, sir? Now that you know about this curse and have a lot to think about, where will they see you elsewhere?
Good grief. To be honest, I'm probably not going to be doing any streaming, and I'm not that active on social media at the moment because I'm boring. So the only updates I really do will be on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter at Screaming Joypad if you want to know what's latest and greatest with me. There's going to be a lot of tech stuff, a lot of software testing stuff because it's my job, and I adore it. And also me just gushing about Dungeons and Dragons. Also, don't forget to check out when's our next? It's the 24th.
I believe the 24th. Yes, actually, it's a Tuesday, which is unusual for us. But we have Infinity Beyond campaign is getting some pretty stuff is happening. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Including my character. There's some interesting stuff happening with my character at the moment, TikTok, who is a Warforged fighter. So if you want to see how I transpose the Oroch character to the Warforged character, then yeah, definitely check that out on our channel.
Awesome stuff, man. I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. Moving right along, we have, of course, Dark Saber 2K. Saber, it was, as always, it was a pleasure. Also, kudos to Saber for handling MooBot and Dashboard for me, because I was trying to frantically do other stuff. So thank you, sir. And good stuff tonight. So where will we see things from you next?
Next, I will be right back here on this channel tomorrow in the same time slot you do, but on Wednesdays, and I will be doing a pre-release look at Frostpunk, the upcoming post-apocalyptic steampunk city-building survival game from the developers of this war of mine.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that. It actually looks kind of cool. I'm interested to see how you handle that. Cool. That is going to be good stuff. Pleasure as always. And last but certainly not least, of course, Pyron Jade. Pyron, who got a chance to be the, quote, only moral center of the party, in quotes, and got to deal with rival religious orders. So that's always a good time as well. But always a pleasure, Pyron. Where will the fine people see you next?
I'm currently not streaming because real life is still very, very, very busy with important adult stuff and all of that. You can see me a lot actually in Dark Saber's chat, because he is my evening entertainment most of the time right now. So chat me up there. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. I sometimes tweet things. I often retweet things. So yeah, that would be nice. And so yeah. That's it from me so far. I hope to get back to streaming someday, but yeah, real life.
Real life. I'm glad nonetheless you've made...
It's like everywhere.
Yeah, it is. You can't get away from it, really. And I'm glad that you made time for us. It has been a great pleasure, and so I want to thank chat. Can we get some love for the wonderful GOG stream team? Thank you to Pyron, to Dark Saber, to Mike/Screaming Joypad, also known as his cat, and of course Tasty Chai. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you folks next month. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
See ya, everyone.
Alrighty. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for me, because I have got to give way now to Lovelust, I believe, who is going to be here and playing, I believe, a release stream, because I'm almost sure that's what I remember seeing. Yes, the release stream, that's right, of Ys the 8th Lacrimosa of Dana. So you guys should stick on here and hang out, because Lovelust is a really fun streamer, and it's going to be fun to see how she handles Ys. I am going to go have me that plate that you see right back there of salmon, pesto pasta, and kale salad and green beans. That's got my name on it. I'm going to be eating that, and then I'm going to be doing a lot of work, because I got a lot of work to catch up on. I will be back on my own channel on Friday, this Friday, when I will be continuing to stream Esper Genesis on my own channel, which is my sponsored D&D space campaign. So if you want to get more of my space opera campaign with my wonderful group over there, another really fun group of people doing a really cool space game, that is the place you can do it. D&D 5th edition rules, but with some space sort of context with it. So thanks to everyone who was here for this. Really great turnout today. Next week, probably on Pen and Pixels, we may have Divinity Original Sin 2, or we may have a surprise. We'll see. I don't know yet. I got to make sure if I can get that surprise arranged. But if not, then you'll definitely have Divinity Original Sin 2 next week. And then, of course, next month is only a few weeks away, and we will have D&D with GOG. Storm King's Thunder will continue. But that's it for now. Thanks to everyone who made this such a wonderful stream. Don't forget to follow the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to GOG so you can get some awesome emotes. And don't forget to check out all of the wonderful streamers on here, including many of the people that I was just hanging out with, because they're all good and they're all cool and they're all amazing and all that kind of good stuff. So that's going to do it for me. You guys are great, and I will see all of you wonderful people either on my channel at the end of the week or Tuesday of next week back here for episode 123 of Pen and Pixels. But until then, everyone be good to each other, stick around for Lovelust Games, and have a good night.